this you should know. You can take yearly profits and get ready to blow.
Hello, welcome to our next panel.
Big hey now there, Maddie. Hello, hello.
Yeah, what's up? Greetings, everybody.
We've got RJ, Dewey, Supa, Cash Money, and Crispy Man. Welcome.
Woohoo.
So I hear that you guys have an awesome presentation put together, and you're going to be discussing some different elements of how Actuator is a technology that benefits HEX. And so I'm going to let you guys take it away till the top of the hour.
Thank you, good sir. We'll see you on the other side.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us and watching this this stream, or restream as it is. Before we get to introducing people, just real quickly, what I wanted to say is for the next hour, what I'd like people to think of is Actuator as a bond market for HEX. It's not a protocol called demo that we're doing today. It's important to frame it up that way. We're talking about the HEX market, not anything else other than that for the purposes of this, right? And I see we lost a few people, but we'll keep going unless they're here and I don't see them.
No, you're right. Someone butts up, but we're good. Do your thing. We'll cruise with you.
Yeah. So for the three of you guys, starting with RJ, you're one of the co-founders. If you want to say a few words about yourself and your participation here.
Sure. Yeah,
I do.
There's a C3 Works.
All right.
AC3. We're just doing introductions. But yeah, I'm the developer for Actuator, and I think we C3 and I conceived of the idea a couple years ago, and I think there's just a lot of untapped potential with the HEX protocol, and the idea was basically to kind of tap into the hidden potential there by introducing the Actuator protocol, which we'll get into. But I've been a developer for about 10 years and done a lot in traditional finance, and then kind of switched over to crypto around 2020, and I've been working with C3 Works ever since.
Oh, very nice. C3 Works. You have anything you want to do as far as introducing yourself? I know a lot of people know you, but
yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having us on and doing this panel. It's wonderful. Just a quick summary. I think a lot of people do know me. C3 Works. I'm a co-founder of Actuator with RJ. My background professionally was about the first half of my life engineering, the second half traditional finance in the institutional bond market. So a lot of experience in TradFi since late 90s. Transited out of that around 2017 because I had learned about Bitcoin in 2013, and that captivated me even while I was still at the investment banks running traditional finance. And finally, I decided I wanted to be more of part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I left full time and decided to go after all things crypto. Was pre-HEX in 2019. That one grabbed me right away. Thought that was fantastic. Jumped in with both feet and continued on from there. And then, of course, I knew RJ from prior to that. And as we progressed and I got enamored by HEX, had some experiences during the course of that led to the inspiration for Actuator, whereby I thought having some nuanced approach to liquidity of my T-shares would be helpful overall and probably encourage me and others to stake longer and stronger if we weren't so afraid of being able to not have some access to liquidity with some discipline. So we set out to try to provide that solution.
Oh, that sets the stage really nicely. Thank you for that, for making that comment. I agree with you. It opens up optionality for sure and flexibility. Boxy, do you have anything you want to say real quick before we move to the community members?
Yeah, no, I'm not a founder, but I've worked with C3 in some capacity for about 5 or 6 years now. Coder, data scientist, have a history of doing other stuff. But last year at the conference, it was just me and C3 and I, and no one wants to no one wants to hear us do that again. It's great to have community members like you, Crispy, Cash Money, Dewey. You guys are like smart, enthusiastic. It's awesome that we get to sit back and comment on what you guys are doing. So I think that shows
100%.
progress in a year's time, to be honest.
All right, Cash Money.
Yes. How's it going, guys? So I'm Cash Money. A lot of you guys know me. Yeah, I got into crypto in 2016. I first started off mining ETH. Then I used my ETH to get into HEX. And I did pretty good. Yeah, and I just been in crypto, been retired. I just live in Thailand. And I love HEX, love Pulse Chain. I love Actuator. I'm one of the big community members over there. I got a couple other protocols that we also support Actuator. And it just unlocks a lot of value, and it brings a lot of value to the community. So I'm just here to support them because I love it so much.
Awesome, dude. Thank you. I appreciate you coming. Dewey?
Yeah, greetings to the world. No, thank you so much. My name is Dewey. You know, I've been here since Richard Hart was doing his self-help stuff. So I kind of came along and learned from him from the very beginning. And then when I watched him launch HEX, that got me excited. I didn't get a chance to run through it, you know, so like actually go through the whole cycle. So this is my first one. So I've come back full circle, and the actual freedom that the whole thing has provided us, like HEX is the king. It began in the center, started this whole ethos and this whole beginning for what Pulse Chain has now become. And we've come further along the lines where we're going to talk about tonight, where Actuator actually got me really excited because I found this to be an evolution of HEX in a sense. And we're going to talk more about it, what it is and why these elements come together and what this whole thing is. But like Crispy said, it really is a bond market, an advanced bond market that doesn't have men in the middle of it. We trust the math, we trust the code, not the man. And the idea that Actuator is such a thing that is a vision that you're going to see, you know, in the future of us, it's going to be on chain more and more. But like these bond markets are something special because that's a unique set of people that out there that really enjoy this. And these are gigantic markets. And that's one thing that's special and unique that brings things back to Pulse Chain from Actuator's standpoint, that when they build these things out, we're going to hear about HTTs and talk about these things in you know, as we continue. But what these individual components are is a masterclass of an ecosystem we're going to need. So this is a unique thing. I can't wait to hear Crispy's vision of this as well. I'm excited to be here, boys. Thank you.
All right. Before I get started with the first question of the first few questions, a couple comments. One, for anybody out there who is fading HEX staking, you're looking at 6 people who really, really believe in HEX staking. That's number one. Number two, for all you maxis out there that only believe in, you know, in doing native stakes, that's fine. But you need to know about this because people are going to be using this. And in the future, you may find that you would like access to that. And then for those of you who have been really heavy into the Hedron ecosystem, the HSIs that we're talking about are the Hedron HSIs, right? So that is a main component of Actuator. And why is that important? HEX is immutable. Users do what they need to do with HEX as far as staking, right? HSI ecosystem, as far as creating HSIs, is immutable. Users control what they do with that. And finally, when we talk about Actuator, it is also immutable, and users control that. And so it sets the stage for, other than, you know, there's things like LP and whatnot that people provide that do require interactions, right? But these protocols all work without middlemen. And I think that was one of the points that we were getting after. All right. So we talk about the Actuator system as a bond-like market, or as I call it, super bonds, but a bond market for HEX because they are backed by HEX. So here's a key question for you, Mr. C3 Works. How would you explain Actuator to a TradFi bond trader in one sentence?
One sentence, I would probably say to the TradFi bond trader, it's a perfected bond. In that, like a bond, you have a stream of cash flows that have a discounted yield to determine a present value, and you have a stream of cash flows, except you have no counterparty risk.
Okay, very good. And you want to talk about that no counterparty risk, because that is a terminology, and you've used it before. I've heard it a few times. But could you maybe explain the difference between TradFi typically with bonds and what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. If you wanted to go and invest in a 10-year Apple bond with a 5% coupon yielding 4%, and you're paying a premium for that. It's backed by Apple. You're hoping that Apple makes good on their payments. If they don't, they default and you don't get your payment, you don't get principal and interest when due. That's counterparty risk. You don't have that here with HEX. With what we're doing in HEX, you have the same capabilities of getting a stream of cash flows, but it's coming from a protocol that is not going to fail you with respect to principal and interest when due. Interest being, in this case, the earnings that you would achieve. So you're avoiding the possibility of default risk, which you have in the bond market. So in that sense, it's like a perfected bond with perfected collateral, but you still get the same benefit of steady cash flows that you would expect to have.
Right, and that cash flow in the form of HEX.
Correct, in native HEX terms. All of this is in native HEX terms.
And so for a definition perspective, and I think I'll start with you for this next question, and everybody else, if you have something you'd like to add to it, you can add. From a definition perspective, folks, if you haven't heard about HEX time tokens, or HTTs, they are tokens that you are able to put an HSI up as collateral and mint these tokens. And on the redemption date, which is corresponds to the number of the HTT, they are equal 1-to-1 with HEX. All right, so it is a HEX-backed market. And for those of you who are interested in LP and whatnot, go take a look at the LPs. You'll see that they are inverted for the most part, meaning there's more LP than there is market cap. So in terms of a healthy ecosystem, that's a very good thing. So starting with you, C3 Works, what problem does Actuator solve now that HEX is moved into what I call the second trimester of the 15-year cycle? We've gone through the first batch of 5 years. We've seen how people have reacted to it. There's a little bit of a game change here. HEX has matured as a staking ecosystem, and now it's running head-to-head against T-bills right now.
So the problem that we're trying to address here is, as HEX moves now, we're in our 6th year here, and we want to attract larger capital. We want to attract even sophisticated capital. Maybe it's family offices or institutions. Maybe it's just large investors. But if you're going to reach those folks who are used to traditional finance, you're going to have to offer them some of the same sorts of tools for risk management that they have in traditional finance. Well, one of those tools for risk management is the ability to access some amount of collateralizing of their assets and get liquidity in some degree from their assets. So think in terms of a home. When you buy a home, you buy a house. That's a big asset you invest in. As you grow equity in that home, you would like to be able to, at times and for certain purposes, draw some of that equity out in the form of liquidity and use it for other elements of your life. Maybe it's for other investments. Well, likewise, a T-share, or in this case, a tokenized T-share, is a capital asset. And capital always goes where capital is treated well. And when it comes to institutional or large investment money, treating it well means I have the ability to collateralize that a bit and get some market disciplined access to liquidity. And Actuator provides that. And it's not inconsistent with HEX across the board, because even HEX at the protocol layer grants an emergency end stake possibility. Why do they do that? Well, there's a whole bunch of game theory reasons, but in part, it's acknowledging that if you really want to pay a certain price, you can get some element of liquidity, depending on how all those numbers shake out. It's pretty crazy, but nonetheless, you can do it. They make that opportunity. They could have had no end stake. They could have, sure, but they make a mechanism. All we do is say, okay, that's a pretty blunt one, and it's not market disciplined per se. We wanted to bring a market discipline to that with some nuance that we think if people had some element of control there, would have the confidence and willingness to extend stakes longer, stronger, and larger. And that's the problem we were seeking to solve.
Yeah, and I think in our next segment, we'll get into how people are using it. And I know, because we talk, the 6 of us, in one way, shape, or another, We know that it's affecting staking with the people that are involved because they're staking more HEX all the time for longer periods of time. Before we move into how people are actually using this, it might benefit the viewers to understand, and I'll take my first stab at it, and then you guys can like fill in. HTTs can be for any HEX day in the future. You as a user, you decide if you want to issue them or not issue them. You can do that. Right. And what it ends up creating, if you think of it this way, is that an HTT is redeemable 1-to-1 for HEX in the future on its date. Before it gets there, it may run at a premium and it may run at a discount. And then you might be able to even, I try to calculate this, you might even be able to calculate what it should be based on the time value of money or HEX in this case. And so you end up with a curve, which is called the yield curve. And if anybody would like to address the yield curve, and you know, it'd be great. Now, a lot of us aren't traders, but in the bond trading world, right, yield curve trading is important for a number of reasons.
Well, I'll step out and add a little comment on the yield curve. In traditional finance, the yield curve traditionally means in the core denomination measure. In TradFi, that would be US Treasuries and dollars, right? Everything else is built upon that. So the time value of money in dollars is most clearly related by the US Treasury curve from short-term maturities all the way out to the 30-year part of the curve. And that establishes what the time value of money is upon which everything else is built. Well, what that really becomes is a reliable measuring rod for financial management. And because we have a reliable measuring rod or measuring stick, all the financial planners, whether they happen to be companies that are trying to make calculations about their business decisions or their investment portfolios, they have a common established framework for what the time value of money is in that denomination. And that gives confidence to financial planners and business activities. Mm-hmm. Likewise, if we want to be a large global ecosystem, we need a similar sort of reliable, non-controlled measuring stick. And that's what this yield curve seeks to provide, is down at the native HEX level, native HEX, never mind anything else on top of it, no optionality, no all these other differences, the native HEX level, this yield curve that will flow from HTTs would provide such a measuring stick.
Yep. Well, you know, and you know, in my simple mind, right, I go back to things like, okay, what does this mean? Well, we just talked about having a curve because of ratios, and we know this is crypto, and we're using DEXs and automated market makers. So we know that there's going to be mispricings. So, guys, basically, for the average user, sometimes HTTs are cheap, and they shouldn't be cheap, and it makes sense for people to go get them. Why would they go get them? Because later on they'll have more HEX for the value. And sometimes they're really expensive. We've seen that happen. And when they're really expensive, people will mint new HTTs and swap them for HEX. And then you have certain situations like Boxy highlights all the time, where sometimes those differences are so great that you can create an amplification effect and be able to stake and stake and end up with more stakes than you started with, and than you expected, because you're able to take advantage of those changes or those differences in pricing. So it kind of sets the stage. I know this is a very detailed topic, like we were talking in the green room. I feel like it took me 6 months to understand a lot of this. So we're trying to distill a lot of information into an hour. Well, let's go over to Dewey first, and we'll ask this. For Dewey, you've been using this protocol, and we want to really hear from you and also Cash Money, right? What kind of behaviors or outcomes have you been surprised at? I mean, what are you seeing with HTTs? I
appreciate you. Well, HTTs for me is definitely it's liquid HEX stakes. The simplest form that I can understand it, as far as like what is it to tell someone normal? They're HEX stakes in token form. And, there's a HEX stake that goes, cuatro cinco, 15 years. There's a HEX stake that'll do like 3 years. And you can see the disparity between them. So like you said, sometimes you can buy some. And I've seen some people talk about trading them between 1 and 2 ratios. That's not my thing. Like, I personally like to see that because it's an option for people. Me, I actually inclined to do more stakes now. I really like the fact that I can look out and all the things I've learned about T-shares and, the value of HEX stakes and what they actually really are. You want to get your hands on them as soon as you can for your own longevity purposes if you're going to be in crypto that way, right? That's a strategy. So for me, I'm like, wait a minute, that comes at a choice because I'm holding some liquid because maybe I want to get rid of some. And I've heard stories about people who want to sell but never had a chance. And like C3 said, there is an end stake possibility, but that penalty is so serious and severe that you have to make a real choice. So when I started to look at, I said, hey, I have some HEX here that I could play with. So let me start messing with the protocol. And I immediately started looking at, wait, I put out a Cuatro Cinco, a max stake, right? And I can immediately redeem some form of liquidity. I can realize it right now for whatever that value of the stake is. And then I can actually use that and play with it. So that brought up a whole lot of timing. It's like, okay, if there's 15 years from now and I plan for that, then all of a sudden I have like what you were talking about with Boxy, there's a moment where I can actually take this, I can make a stake. Let's say I'll take 1,000 HEX, for instance. I'll make a stake. I'll get 1,000 HTTs of that variation. I'll transform those 1,000 HTTs into maybe it'll become worth like a 700 HEX, 500 HEX. I now have 500 HEX liquid. I can essentially do whatever I want. I can make a stake again. I can also never repay that in the HTT version if I choose to and still have a stake that I have partial ownership that I earn yield from. So this comes to I don't lose out on the max stake. I can do it right away, right? I have the ability to take out at will. Let's say, I don't know, 8 months from now, whatever, HEX is worth $1 each. And all of a sudden I'm accruing, at right now, maybe pennies, but at that point it's definitely not. And I have access. I have these other things that are in my world where I get to keep ownership and I get to realize the gains now. And that was something that it was once a choice, right? Now it's here for us in both forms.
Yeah, I think that's a game changer because in this protocol, you have the option to retain the stake. I mean, it is your stake. Right, it is yours. You can always unwind and go all the way back to an HSI. In fact, at this point in time, just my opinion, if I'm staking, I'm doing HSIs, right? Because it gives me full optionality. It doesn't mean I have to use actuator, but it gives me the optionality to do a lot more with that. Who knows what will come down in the future, right? But along with that, I think one of the points that you just made, but I'll clarify. I've been surprised by this fact that you can, because I didn't understand it at first. When I do a Cuatro Cinco, for instance, and let's say I pick the latest or the longest HTT, the mint, like the HTT 7000. I guess what I would be doing is setting it for HTT 7000 for the end date. But when I do that, I effectively can set myself up with a dividend play. And this is something, a lot of the words we're talking about and the concepts, C3 Works mentioned this a moment ago. Well, what does that mean, dividend play? Well, I had my stake, I minted my HTTs and I have them. Okay, whatever I'm doing with it. Every day there's a payout of HEX. Every day I could go mint more HTTs, for instance, in that case. And so over a year's time, that is a dividend play in that I could be pulling those HTTs out throughout an entire year and use that for some sort of passive income. Right? Each person is going to develop their own strategy. I would think, right? And so we have that. Let's go to Cash Money. Cash, you've been using the system. What are you thinking about it? What surprised you? Did we lose you, Cash, or are you on mute? All right. Let's move over to RJ.
Hey, Dewscom, that was a really great explanation.
Thank you, brother.
For your walkthrough there.
It was cutting out there, Crispy.
Cash Money, you want to talk?
Yeah. So, basically, if you're a HEX staker, you can unlock value and you can't go wrong. You can earn yield on top of yield on top of yield. If you got a HEX stake, right, and you delegate it to actuator, right, you're still earning your yield on your HEX stake. And you're able to mint that yield, like Crispy was saying, every day. You got a dividend coming from your HEX stake. And as you're earning on your HEX stake, you're also earning more in the ecosystem because you're putting those HTTs to use. You're putting those HTTs in LP. You can farm with it. You're also getting the trading fees that are in that LP. You can also earn the actuator, stake the actuator in the vaults, and you can earn yourself more HTTs that are at a discount. So it's like, if you have a hex stake and you delegate it to actuator, at the end, you can't not make hex. In hex terms, you're always going to end up with more hex. You can see them at a discount. A lot of people have different thoughts of the value, right? So I may value HTT 7000 at something different than somebody else, but they're always fluctuating, and there's always times where you can beat the market and you can flip your bags and get yourself more hex. Like, it's one of the it's one of the best protocols on chain, and I see it as infrastructure for hex, not even just utility, like infrastructure.
Have you taken advantage of any of like the time preference trades that C3 Works talks about? And I'll explain to people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So folks, one of the things we've seen, which has been pretty interesting, is remember these are discount prices to hex. I mean, the primary liquidity is hex. Sometimes those mispricings make it so that you essentially can go mint. You can stake and mint very long stakes, you know, and then turn around and mint those HTTs and swap them for a lower date and actually get your hex sooner on the timeline. And so we've seen that happen a couple of times as well, because again, it all has to do with the fact that you have these HTTs and they are going to be one-to-one with hex. So if you think of like a really long HTT being equal to 50% of a hex, and a really short one being equal to 50% of the hex, it's almost a one-to-one, you know, trade. And so you can essentially stake really long and get your hex sometimes 2, 3, 5 years earlier, which has been an interesting point. Let's move to RJ. And RJ, what is this discussion bringing up for you?
Yeah, I think I think about it maybe from a different perspective, which is kind of from a computer science perspective, or like I think of, you know, blockchain primitives and primitive assets. And I think with a hex stake, what we set out to do is really to wrap it, like we said, with these HTTs. And it's important for those HTTs to be extremely pure. And by that, I mean, like, they have to have one-to-one backing with the hex that they represent. Otherwise, the value isn't meaningful. So they're going to be, one-to-one backing with absolute assurances around redemption on the underlying hex. But also, just kind of hearing Scum talk, it's cool to see how people use it. And I think that's what we want to see, is like we want maximal optionality on what you can do with the HTTs. Like, so, the other big, I think, really important factor with the protocol is there's almost zero friction, or very little friction towards creating new supply or taking supply offline. Because if you're going to have a truly flourishing bond market, you need a way to bring new supply online. And that is hard to do, because to bring new supply online means you need more assets backing it. But in our case, it's the backer is hex stakes. And so we have a pure form to create new HTTs, take them off the market. And in terms of the yield curve we talked about, I think the global nature of hex is what makes it interesting, because there's not really like a globally accessible yield curve on an asset, because there's just like no other asset has the ability to lock in that fixed rate of return that an HTT does. So the point is that our goal isn't to think about every single use case for HTTs. It isn't to think about every possible thing that can be built on HTTs, but just make sure we provide. There's this concept of latent in software development. There's this idea of latent potential for a product, like basically people use it in ways you didn't really foresee. And that's kind of what we want to see with HTTP, just give people those primitive, pure asset and tools. So.
Yeah, we talk about the pureness of the yield curve quite a bit. Hey, RJ, for some reason I think we're getting some background noise. Maybe it's from your mic. I'm not sure.
Okay, I will.
Who's getting it? Or maybe not. Okay, yeah.
So, Crispy, can I add a couple of quick points because they're probably useful for folks to hear?
Yeah. Hey, everybody who's not speaking, can go on mute. Go ahead, see it there.
A couple quick important points. One is to recognize that an important component of the actuator protocol is that all of your actions can be reversed and unwound, right? If you need some short-term cash for whatever reason, whether it's investment opportunities or other things, life happens. If you were to emergency end stake, that's it. I mean, you might only need $1,000 and you might have to blow up a $20,000 stake and it's over. Well, that's pretty horrible, right? So that's not a great answer. Here, if you have that same stake in a tokenized form, you could collateralize that, draw some HTTs, liquidate those, deploy that $1,000. And if your problem is solved in 2 weeks, you could come back, repurchase your HTTs, replace those back into the system and pull back out your unencumbered HTT and move on your merry way. So it's a very reversible thing. It gives you a lot of options in that sense. And the second thing to highlight about this, which I think I picked up in the chats, so I want to mention this because somebody asked a really good question in one of the chats that, well, gee, what happens if the actuator team, RJ and I and Boxy and others, we fall off the face of the earth? Do you have any ability to redeem and do all the things you need to do? And of course, the answer is absolutely you do. We have, I mean, it's a completely open protocol and anybody can go in and interact directly with the smart contracts and carry out all the same functions. Obviously, we host a UI for convenience, but anybody could spin up a UI that's working off of those same smart contract functions. So there's not a dependency on the team other than one of convenience for the dApp, but anybody in the community could spin up others and you didn't even have to, you could interact directly with the contract.
All right, very nice. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting protocol. But I'll challenge you this way. I'll go negative towards everybody here. Like, why are you guys doing this? Why are you working with HTTs and actuator? It's killing the demand for HEX. So prove me wrong.
Who wants to take it?
I'm happy to throw. You want to throw something out? I'll come in last because I got all kinds of answers.
I'll play a little bit. So why HTTs? Well, firstly, like we said, it's liquid HEX stakes. So that means every time I hold it, every moment, every day, it's increasing in value. And there's a market for it where people want these things, and I can move in and out of that market if I choose. So when I believe that they're one-to-one, that's part of like playing in the ecosystem and understanding the protocol. It's a huge deal because that's when I really started to make a lot of sense. Not just that I can farm it right now, which the next 2 years we can farm actuator token. That's one thing that's beautiful about it. But so HTT to HTT, it feels like a lot less, to HEX, it feels like a lot less risk. So it feels really nice to know that something's going to be denominated in HEX, and that lasting effect means that I can kind of at least assume a little bit about the discrepancy between where the ratio. I mean, if it goes higher, someone buys the HTT, I'm already in. I like that. I get more HEX either way, right? So I appreciate the concept of. That's why actuator token is also so appealing to me, because farming HTTs, I'm farming liquid HEX stakes. It's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, that was good. Well, something I would add is I think there's kind of a simple maybe way to think about this, and it's that you first ask the question, does the actuator protocol support more risk reward profiles or less? And the answer is more, because you can more tightly tune the nature of your stake. As we've talked about, you could pull HTTs out of it, you could send them back, you could just buy HTTs, you could swap HTTs. So it gives you kind of full control over like the underlying like mechanics of the HEX protocol. And so when you have when more people can more specifically lock in their risk reward profile using the tool, you get more usage that way. And what that means is that you get more HTTs in general. And every time an HTT is bought, you're putting upward pressure on HTTs, which increases the need for more stakes. Because if HTTs get too expensive, the rational economic move will be to make a stake, mint the HTTs, and sell the HTTs on the open market because they're overpriced. So any HTT activity at all is, at the end of the day, bringing increased demand on underlying stakes.
That's an awesome point. I just wanted to add too. I mean, to answer your question full circle, Crispy, you gotta pay to play, and our denomination is HEX. You gotta have HEX to jump in here and enjoy, right? So that truly is what's the evolution of it. And I thank you. That was an awesome point, RJ.
Yeah, and there's so to link back to HEX. HEX is derived from certificates of deposit in TradFi, right? I mean, it's not the same, and I don't know if anyone uses CDs anymore, but there's product market fit for that, right? And Actuator, you have zero coupon bonds, which is a product market fit in TradFi, which is what an HTT is. You buy it at a discount to the underlying asset and redeem it 1-to-1, so you know your fixed rate. That has product market fit. All we're doing here, or all this protocol is doing here, is making it decentralized, immutable, no admin keys. The price of the underlying asset can actually go up in less US dollars. So it's, and then also when you mint HTTs, that's like a HELOC, like a home equity line of credit or a HEX equity line of credit. You're taking a loan from your own collateral to yourself. You can pay it back if you want. You don't have to. You don't have to pay interest. There's no middleman. So there's product market fit for the primitive of all of these services. So I mean, is there value in those primitives? I think so. So I think it's sort of logically downstream implies that we're adding value to the ecosystem with Actuator.
C3.
I'll add another piece here that I think we're doing. If I were to ask people just intuitively, you don't even have to have the data, just intuitively, would you say the amount of liquid HEX sitting out in the system in everybody's wallets is too big or too small right now? I'm guessing most would say too big. And they'd probably be right.
Too big.
Of course. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because they got in too early. They went out too far. They got caught in a downdraft. They got strung up where they couldn't get the liquidity. They got burned once, and they're never going to do that again. Except that now they're going to hold a pile of liquidity that is not a great thing for the ecosystem either. So if we give them some reason to say, deploy your liquid HEX, earn something, go forth and do it, and give you some ability to manage that a little bit if you need to, that inspires some confidence because there's an element of control and they don't feel the need to hoard huge piles of liquid HEX. That's a good thing.
Well, we don't have time during this session to get into it, but to put a fine, cap on what you're talking about, big whales out there, sharks, you have a lot of HEX. You can actually create an HTT of your own and create your own liquidity and secure it and just earn forever on ARB. If that was your desire, right? And so there are opportunities, and this is some of the things that we're seeing with that the C3 Works is talking about, where you can go build your own market. You own the market. You're safe. In terms of HEX, you're safe, right? Because you know that it's all going to be HEX sometime in the future. It's just about managing the time that you're going to be
That's a really important point. An HTT is HEX on a future date. So whether you hold your HEX passively liquid, where it earns nothing, or you deploy it into HTTs, which is more like an active liquid HEX position that's actually earning just by holding the HTTs, that's a better component. You still have liquidity by holding the HTTs. It's still HEX. If HEX 10Xs, the HTTs are expected to 10X because it's still HEX on a future day. That's a better program than holding a bunch of passive liquidity.
So if you have a liquid HEX bag, meaning it's not staked, Right now in these conditions with HTTs at discounts, why not just, I don't see, I mean, for me, you do what you want, but why just why own liquid hex? Why not just trade it for discounted hex, which is HTTs? Um, and then furthermore, if you want to take a step further than that, so all you have to do is just literally swap the hex for HTTs. You don't need to know anything. Like, that's simple. Yeah, there's a lot you can do in this protocol. You know, I mean, lots of things can be complicated, but that's really simple. You're earning something, you just make a simple swap. And if you want to take it to the next step, you just pair those HTTs with hex in LP. It's basically a stable swap over time. So if people buy too much hex, then you end up with more HTTs, which is more hex later. If people buy more HTTs, then you have more hex today. So the risk profile of that, of at least if you have liquid hex right now, buy HTTs and LP it with hex. That's like, to me, that's a no-brainer. But I mean, there is smart contract risk for sure.
Well, yeah, and we definitely appreciate that part. But the protocol is immutable and also has been audited, and all of that information is available at actuator.finance. I do want to take this question from the chat because Trap Gravity brings up a good point. Well, it's a good statement. I don't agree with the point. Why not just buy and stake hex? It sounds like we were chasing pennies in front of freight trains. So first off, just in defense of the protocol, to participate, somebody has to buy and stake hex. So check. It's going to do that, right? The rest of it is, and I thought about this a lot in my own head. You know, like, why am I interested in this, right? Well, guys, I don't know if you noticed, we ain't got a lot of people locking up long term. So market is saying, hey, I'm not comfortable blocking up a lot of my liquid hex long term, so they're keeping it liquid. There's a lot of ramifications of that, right? And it's, you know, and it is what it is. I mean, people can do what they want to do, but why wouldn't you want to earn 2%? So it has to do with your time frames, right? Why wouldn't you want to stack yield if you're going to keep it for 15 years? Why wouldn't you want to have optionality, you know, to be able to do that? So there's, yeah, you can stay liquid and be diluted, or you can somehow get exposure to the hex, the increasing hex rewards over time. But again, go ahead.
Let me add this other point to the direct question, which I think I heard was, why wouldn't you just want to stake hex over time and be done? Was that sort of the question? In a sense, the answer is, yes, we agree. But would you rather stake hex with no options for the future, or would you rather stake hex and have options for the future?
Yeah, well, I challenge everybody who's watching this. I mean, you know, if you're calling BS on us talking about this, I'm not being negative or reactive about it. There's 200 people that are staking Quattro Cinco, guys. So you tell me how the market's decided. Now, so why are they doing that? Because they don't want to lock up for 15 years and miss opportunities over the next 15 years, you know, with native stake. The HSIs and the use of actuator gives you the option to do some other stuff.
That's the critical point. We're not disagreeing with the importance of staking for the future. We want to encourage that. And our position would be that you're more inclined to stake longer and stronger and bigger for the future if you have some ability to adjust for the things that happen in the future. If you don't, then the way people adjust for risk is with asset allocation. They reduce it, and we don't want that.
Said a little differently, I would throw the question back at them. What's stopping you from staking another, say, $1,000 or $100? Like, really, we all have stakes here. What's stopping you from doing it again? And everybody has a limit where they're going to say, oh, I'm not going to stake any more than that. And they have a because. And the because is like, oh, well, I have other expenses in life. I have a mortgage. I have, you know, potentially medical bills. I have, you know, I don't know what 10 years looks like, so I can't make a 10-year stake. All those reasons why are things that are addressed through the HTT system. Like with unexpected bills, like, you know, this gives you the optionality to turn it into HTTs. Or, like, you know, if you're in a 10-year lockup, well, this gives you flexibility on your time horizon. So I think it moves the bar for everybody to a larger stake because it addresses some of the real concerns that all of us would have at staking, too much, which is different for everybody. And I think that amount is more now for everybody because of the actuator system.
Yep.
And I haven't. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Every stake I've made since actuator came out was 5555, and it wasn't like that before. So.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I think we, anybody disagree? I've been doing more staking than I've ever done for longer periods of time. It's kind of crazy because there's optionality there. There's an option to be able to access liquidity earlier if I want to, but I understand the risks of that, and everybody needs to do their own research. We are coming up on the 10-minute warning before we'll have to drop off. And we move on, Maddie will come in here, and we'll move to the next thing. But I wanted to cover one other question that is out there. All right, so this is a pretty important one. So it's kind of dovetails into this question that we were just kind of addressing, right? What market are we playing to? There's also an aspect to this of guys. Hey, we always talk about HEX being some sort of financial revolution and available to the general public in the world, and TradFi is going to flock here. Do you think realistically, I love ladders. I have them. Realistically, is that the form of HEX staking for TradFi? And I'm going to tell you no. That's what I think. I don't think TradFi is coming over here to build staking ladders old school the way we did it. All right. But this ecosystem that's being built is $1 billion idea, to steal Dewey's idea or statement. That's something that's being built now. It's already up and running. It's been up and running, guys, for over a year. So this isn't brand new. Something that's up and running now with a market of 500,000. I guess it fluctuates because of all the price, but a market of around 500,000 or so at 100x, right? That's a substantially higher number. 2 cycles or whatever, next 9-year cycle we go through, maybe it's 1,000x, because the ecosystem grows. So this could become a powerhouse of bond trading where TradFi may want to come over. And I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that.
I would jump in if nobody else wants to start. Yeah, so in my opinion, when I look at this is one of the things that gave me such a wide scope vision when I first started trying to understand. It took me a couple weeks and a lot of Crispy's beautiful videos on YouTube. Like, you got to check him out if you guys are really interested. Crispy Man has done a wonderful job with all these videos because he walks us through from many angles, and not just the angles, the vision. So in TradFi, you guys are talking about like bond markets and stuff like that, where these guys are trading gigantic amounts of money. Like, there are trillions of dollars in there, billions of dollars, $100 million moves back and forth, I'm sure probably are in that wheelhouse for those guys. And a lot of times they're working against other people, like as far as in between. Here, it's code. It's immutable, as we hear this word we talk about, but what it is they're not trusting any other man in between to do or not do. This is math. And the fact that when you can, like, if those guys have their, their people to look into these things and they can verify these things, I think there's another playground that's untapped in a way where, first of all, we're denominating things in HEX. Like C3 said, that HEX itself, or Boxy said, HEX itself has the ability to move up and down, right? So it can appreciate. It's not $1. It doesn't stabilize at $1. It also has the fact that the immutable code can be put aside to say, okay, that's trustworthy. You can check that off. So now it's the love of the game. All right. The love of the game. Do they go in, like, some of these guys probably wake up and they got plenty of money, they're happy, but they love trading. And there is no other place and way to facilitate that in this world, like as far as HEX goes, except right here, right now. And that vision maybe not be realized right away. It may be something, but that has opened the door for something that is unique to this product, to this possibility. That people from outside can recognize something that they love and they do every day. They're fully aware. Numbers are gigantic. And when I say numbers are gigantic, let's think about HEX. Last time I ran up, I think it was like 70 billion market cap at some point, right? When it was up there, it was like right below ETH. So imagine if actuators running around like 1%, 3%, 5% of some of those numbers, it gets large really quickly. And if you're an early user of actuator as far as the token itself, and you can actually take advantage of the vaults and you believe in it, you're earning HTTs. We've been talking about that for a while, but people someone's going to need to fuel that. there's a discount in there somewhere where someone needs to, there's a lucrative aspect of like, let's add HTTs to the system because it's worth it right here, right now. That's liquid HEX, right? You need HEX to play in this. And the fact that people on the other side of that can take advantage of it once you have these over collateralized pools where HTTs exist in, which they do now, that's a huge component. Like you guys, that's a huge thing. If Crispy can go into details about that alone, that's an idea that these things are 1-for-1 in HEX, like these guys talk about. And it will only increase to be that way because some side of the coin, one person has to buy it, but the other side of it, they have to sell it. And in between is where these guys live, the trading aspect. That's beauty. That, you know what I mean? That's a beautiful thing. It's alive. It's here right now if you want it. That's my perspective on this.
Yep. And there's different strokes for different folks, right? The world isn't all just HEX stakers. Obviously, we see that on PulseChain, right? There's going to be traders, there's going to be people doing other things. Cash Money, over to you.
Yes. So it's basically like you're buying discounted HEX. You can just buy it right off the market, and you're buying HEX at a discount. When you make a HEX stake, you're making a stake so you can increase your position in HEX units. And this is another way to increase your HEX units in so many other ways. And you can do it through immutable code, immutable contracts with no middleman. You can take advantage and unlock your liquidity and make even more yield on top. And you're getting discounted HEX. Like it doesn't get more clear than that, right? Like you cannot lose HEX using Actuator. It's not possible. You're going to come out with more HEX. And it's like, if you have HEX, you can make a HEX stake. You can take a loan against that HEX stake, and you can play the farms. You can either try to get yourself more HEX. You can try to stack the Actuator to earn HTTs in the vaults, and you can even get yourself more HEX stakes. Either way, your HEX is going to grow in HEX terms. People look at the price. The price is to look at the certain point in a cycle, but throughout the cycle, you got to look at units. You got to get more units, and Actuator provides you that utility to use your HSIs that are already earning yield to earn more yield. And like me, I'm buying HEX every day, and it depends on the Actuator price, on the ACTR price. What do I do for that day? Do I grab some more HEX stakes and mint some HTTs? What is the value of the HTTs? Do I buy HTTs and buying discounted HEX? There's many ways you can play it. You know what I mean? So I think what we're gonna do is maybe in a day or two we're gonna make a video, and we're gonna continue it, and we're gonna show. So what I'll do is I'll put 1 million HEX in an account, and we'll go from there, and we'll make moves in Actuator, and we'll grow the HEX, and we'll see how far and how high we can get that HEX balance. You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be good for the community. We're going to show a lot of people how it works, because a lot of people have questions and they think it's complicated, and it's not really that complicated. I know a lot of people use big terms and stuff, but it's very simple, and you're going to come out at the end with more HEX, not less HEX. And that is the main goal here, is to get more HEX, right?
More HEX.
Awesome.
Let me I know we only have a few minutes. We have a couple parking lot items that people have brought up in the background. One, we're in bootstrapping. Actuators in a bootstrapping phase right now, where liquidity is just being built. Long term, absolutely correct that there's for full utilization there'll need to be more liquidity. So we see that. There's been a question in the chat about the Hedron that's out there. When you delegate your HSIs, you still own the HSIs. So the Hedron's yours. You know, it doesn't impact you with not being able to get your Hedron if you want it. You have that ability. And there are no current plans at this time for launching on ETH. But hey, that's a possibility. But I think focus right now is on PulseChain, which is where we're at. As we round out this session and our discussion, there's two roles, right? Maybe there's two sides of the market. Anybody want to address this? You have the market where people buy it, and they have the market where people, meaning buy HTTs or sell HTTs, and then you have the market where people issue them or mint them. Anybody want to address those two?
I'll throw it out there real quickly. There's a given percent APR for a given spot on the curve. That APR to the minter of HTTs who sells them is a cost of funds. To the buyer of that HTT, it's the return on investment. And they meet in the middle. It's a two-sided market because they have different objectives. And it's the bringing together of the people who want liquidity with the people who are willing to provide liquidity, and they agree upon a rate.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, for me, that's the long story vision of what we're actually seeing in front of us that's here now. Like, those are the roads that are going to lead to something that's robust in a way where, when I say unique, I mean it has a fit in the whole, in the broader scope of the world, that it's now here with us. And we denominate this in hex terms, which we care about. You know, I mean, like Cash talks about units. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that for both sides of the field, when, like he said, that's perfectly said, because we're always going to need that, right? It's in the middle. That's where Actuator has given the roads to us.
Well, Dewey, here's an important point too for everybody listening. First, you don't have to participate in this. It's okay, right? Because that's the whole point. It's optionality for people to do stuff. And you don't have to understand and agree why somebody would want to mint their HTTs and put them on the market. You don't have to, right? What happens for me is when I look at it and somebody's going to sell their hex cheap, their future hex cheap, I want more hex. If I'm in the market for it and it fits my strategy, I'm going to get it. And we've seen the situation where somebody really, really wanted farming yield. And so they bought a whole bunch of HTTs. The HTT prices went really high. And there was a moment where people were trading 2 for 1. You know, they were minting HTTs and trading 2 for 1 for hex. So it creates a very interesting sub market. I agree that, you know, people understand that it's sub market, but there's different roles that people can play, and you don't have to agree with all the roles, right? If you just want more hex, you wait for people to sell stuff that you can pick up, and you're putting more demand on hex by buying the HTTs. It's a little diluted, but you get that. And if you want to get more hex, you wait for them to be overpriced. And you mint them and you swap them for more hex. And it's real. It's hard to see sometimes with the percentages, but
it's beautiful. What's up, Maddie?
Hey, well, thank you guys for explaining the Actuator protocol and how it relates to hex. Let's go around the room and tell people where they can find more of your content as we transition to the next panel. C3.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yep. Well, we are actuator.finance. You can find us at actuator.finance with the docs and the DAP. We're also out there on Telegram, and all of our social media is on the docs. So I'll refer you there to find all the right spots.
Awesome.
I'll go next since I'm right next to you on the screen. I'm on X at Supamechaboxy, spelled the same way as it is on the screen.
Yo, thank you very much for having us, guys. My name is Dewey Scum. That's you can find me on X. That's pretty much where I roam nowadays. I'll be around though.
I'm RJ.
You guys can find me on X. I'm Big Whale Pulse X, and we're gonna do the 1 million hex in the account. We'll do that on Cash Money Alpha Boss YouTube channel.
nice.
I'm RJ. You can also find me on X, and we've got a YouTube channel as well with some instructional videos for Actuator at Actuator Finance.
All right. And you guys know where to find me at Hexfire.io.
Awesome. And I wanted to shout out Actuator again for having sponsored one of the days of the Pulse Chain Conference here earlier this year. So thanks again for your support, and everybody go follow them and learn more. Thanks for being on, guys. Up next, we have the LPX Hex strategy discussion with Crispy Man and Jay Gold and Dave Plus. So tune in. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Maddie.
Bye-bye.
Much love.
We're the Hexicans coming for your neck again. This cryptocurrency space ain't ready for us yet again. We're the Hexicans. Yeah, I'm a Hexican. Now, we're the Hexicans coming for your neck again. This cryptocurrency space ain't ready for us yet again. We're the Hexicans. Yeah, I'm a Hexican. So I'm like, bet. How can I invest? He said if you got MetaMask, brother, you set. Now don't forget to write your seed words down. Not your keys, not your crypto, bet. So I step. Richard is a vet. Retired at 23, traveling in jets. He writes self-help books, especially his new book.
Hey guys.
Hello, Maddie. Hello.
Hello.
Appreciate you coming on to do this 20-minute talk. I understand you guys have a PowerPoint, so I'll add that to the screen here and let you guys take it away.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you so much. Maddie, I want to just first of all give you a big shout out for all the work, the energy that you put into creating these HEX conferences. And hello, everyone. Crispy, Dave, and I are excited to be here. And Maddie, I'll wait for you to load up the slide. There we go. Thank you. Before we jump into our topic, I just want to introduce our panel. Crispy, as you all know, he's a HEX OG. I like to think of Crispy as a data and analytics wizard and the brains and force behind the website hexfire.io. People, if you haven't checked out hexfire.io, please go check it out. Dave, retired math professor, expert in cryptography. He's one of the 6 co-founders of the PlusX ecosystem of DeFi tools. And myself, Jay Gold, like Dave, I'm also a co-founder of PlusX and have coached CEOs in Fortune 50 companies for the past 25 years. And the 3 of us are excited to be here and to have a conversation about a powerful tool on Pulse Chain that has been benefiting HEX holders. But here's the thing, many HEX holders don't know about this tool, and this tool is called LPX. LPX is not a token. It's actually a tool built to benefit all PRC20 tokens. And to start our discussion, I'll pass it on to Dave first and then Crispy. Dave, what exactly is LPX?
Well, you said it perfectly, Jay. It is not a token. Similar to the actuator protocol that Crispy just finished talking about. It's a tool. It's a tool that HEX holders can use to hopefully progress the entire HEX ecosystem. HEX has its own marketing structure. Richard built HEX to reward the users for time. You lock it up, you get time. LPX is going to reward you from token price volatility. So as the price of a token goes up and down, that's where LPX comes in to reward you with some yield. So LPX is an incredible innovation in market making. That means you're putting your tokens to work. With HEX and the HEX stake, you're locking them up. With LPX, you're putting your tokens to work. You have a stack of tokens you love and you want to see that stack grow. LPX is the tool you can use. What LPX does with your tokens is modeled after the highly profitable professional market making systems you find on centralized finance. Now, how do those professional market makers win? Well, they only trade when it's profitable. Professionals sell on pumps and they buy on dips, stacking value with each trade. They only inject their inventory when it makes sense for them. And that's what LPX is doing. With LPX, your tokens are not sitting in a passive pool. They are in a profit logic machine. LPX is going to watch the market and inject a small portion of your tokens into a trade when it's when the profitable opportunity appears. When the market is moving down, LPX is not selling your tokens. That wouldn't make any sense. You don't want to sell when it's going down. It's buying. It's stacking discounted supply. And when the market is moving up, LPX sells a small portion of your tokens, so it has the dry powder to increase your token count on the dips. That is the design. And when there's volatility, your tokens are not on the open market. They are protected, waiting. When there's no volatility, sorry about that. When there's no volatility, they're just sitting there waiting. And when the market provides a profitable opportunity, LPX jumps into play. So LPX is a profit-driven liquidity, not passive liquidity that we see with traditional liquidity. And that's kind of my 2-minute overview of how it works. I mean, there's a lot more going into it that we'll talk about, but that's where I'm going to leave it for now, Jay.
Crispy, you've done a lot of work in liquidity and would love to hear, how does your experience of LPX differ from traditional liquidity, and why is it that some people fear traditional liquidity providing, and how LPX is different from that?
Yeah, kind of a 3-part question. Well, I think the biggest difference is impermanent loss, right? So when we're talking about automated market making, it takes quite a bit of V2 liquidity for something to be considered thick, you know, and for it to stick without a lot of price impact. So from a providing liquidity perspective, pretty. I don't know if people have seen this or not, but you know, the run of the mill pulse chain is like 2 to 3% if you're getting demand. So it's not a really high number. Most are under 2% APY for a V2. V3 is a little bit better in that you can pick your own ranges, but you're picking your own ranges and you can't control what happens with the ranges. Typically V3s aren't smart. We do have, of course, Tide and PHUX and those are out there, which give you kind of like the balancer fork type of stuff. But to answer your question about the LPX, because it is a market making, contract, right? To be clear about that, it's a contract. Because it's a market making contract and it's looking for those opportunities based on its settings, it does what it's designed to do, which is to trade when it's profitable. Those profits can either be put into compounding with the LPX, or it can create a little bit of revenue stream for people. And so that leads me to why LPX at all for me. Why am I interested in this? What we've been able to see, particularly with HEX, it's easier to see with smaller tokens with a greater share of LPX versus the rest, but it does slow down to some extent the dumpage.
Yes.
Right. Because of what it's doing is it's supporting the price. And then the other aspect of it is for people who really want to get out of a token. I mean, there's always a time somebody wants to get out. You can also put it into LPX and let it market make and convert as prices go up into whatever your anchor token is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see by this chart, Jay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump in, but Crispy was talking about that, that protecting of the chart or, the reduced dumpage, and you can see all the green candles. This is the HEX LPX in action, and it's made an, we'll go over the numbers in terms of the number of trades it's made for the HEX ecosystem, but every one of those green dots represents a buy. And so as you can see, the market's trending down. What is LPX doing? It's acquiring tokens at a cheaper price. Then on the pumps, you can see a few reds there where the price started to recover and pump a little bit. Well, in order to buy and have those green dots that you see in this deck screener chart, you got to have the dry powder to do that. And so what it does is it pulls a little dry powder out on the trend. It doesn't stop the trend. As the price is starting to go higher, it's not trying to, time the top and kill the run. It's just taking a little bit of profit along the way. And then when as charts do, as the volatility comes back into play and the chart starts to dip down, it takes that dry powder and you start acquiring additional tokens. So it stacks additional tokens for the people using LPX is the overall design. We call these microcycles, and you want to sell high and then turn around and use those funds to acquire more tokens and buy a little bit lower.
Yeah. And Crispy, one thing that you keep coming back to, which I think is very important, is that LPX responds to the market. LPX is not creating tops and bottoms. It's responding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And if you could talk to that, because that's an important distinction.
Well, yeah, and I think you can add some clarifying thought to that. Some people look at these charts and they're like, look, you can see it on the screen. It's suppressing the price of HEX. It's not suppressing the price of HEX. It can't. It's not big enough. I suppose there's a condition that somebody could envision where maybe an LPX is strong enough to really have that strong of an effect. But the LPX pools, when we look at them, there are a few points, 4 or 5% of the overall action in HEX. HEX is going up and HEX is going down, whatever that volatility is. And the LPX is just designed to take advantage of that and to help do that market making.
Yes.
And mostly robbing the ARBs, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's a key point. And one of the things we like to say about LPX is when it starts buying and, as markets turn around, they start going down, it starts buying. That's setting a higher floor price. We're trying to stop the drop. That's basically what LPX is doing. Protect that floor, keep it up there, start injecting value so that the other people out there that are looking at the chart might, change their TA and say, oh, it's not going to go down. Let me start buying again and we'll accumulate. But you can see some of the stats we have with the HEX LPX. We've done 78,000 trades with LPX so far, and we launched this thing publicly in about June, and I think it was June 15th of 2024, 25, sorry. So it's been about 6 months, almost 7 months going on that. And you can see we have 78,000 trades. We have a volume. We've ran over $17 million worth of transactions through PlusX. Not PlusX, but through PulseX. So, I mean, we're adding volume to the chain. LPX adds volume, so it's a net positive for all of Pulse Chain. And you can see the HEX that we have in there. You know, as Crispy was talking, we don't have millions and millions of dollars of HEX. We're not a major player in HEX, and we have HEX and we have EHEX. You know, about $140,000 worth of HEX, and then $25,000 worth of EHEX in the LPX system as it stands now, making trade and making yield for everybody.
And good people, sorry about the, I guess, StreamYard kind of reformats the slide so you can't see. But as you were saying, Crispy, the amount of HEX is, it's $140,000. It's not, a gigantic amount. And there's also EHEX. Something that I want to ask both of you. Crispy, you did bring up the topic of impermanent loss. And I'd like if you can both comment on this slide. If we really, these are the actual LPX transactions for HEX. And if you could kind of, Dave, if you can go through the numbers, and Crispy, would love you to talk about this, because most of the time when people think of liquidity providing, they think of impermanent loss. And actually what we see here is something we call impermanent gain. What is this?
Yeah. Well, when you start talking about market making, I mean, we all been to a flea market or an open bazaar, and you see, the merchant comes out and he throws his wares on the table, and it's like, hey, here's my inventory. Go at it. Trying to make a profit. Well, that's what you're doing when you provide liquidity. You take your inventory, you throw it out there. Well, LPX is different than the traditional throw it out there on the table. LPX, your liquidity sitting in your pocket, the merchant's pocket, and it says, hey, there's an opportunity. And so you can see by this yellow highlighted one here, the LPX contract with HEX. It has purchased 197 million and some change HEX off the market, and it sold 196. So we said it does sell and buy. It's an inventory control system. It sells a little bit when the price is high, and then it comes back and buy. And so for the net gain for the users of LPX, they have a net gain of about 700,000 HEX, and they still have $16,000 worth of DAI sitting on the side as dry powder. So it's, when some people think like, oh, I don't want to put my inventory out there because, as Crispy has mentioned, there's this fear of this thing called inventory loss or impermanent loss. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to lose my tokens. Well, you can see LPX over a 6-month run has had a net gain in assets, and you still have $16,700 worth of DAI to buy more. And if you were to take that DAI and say, okay, I'm going to pull out of LPX right now, like as Crispy was saying earlier, you have the option at some points like, hey, you know what? My inventory's gone up. I got some DAI here. It's making me yield in DAI. I can pull that, and I got $16,000. It's like, okay, or you could take that 16,000 and go and buy additional HEX at this. It's like, oh, it's at a low. I'm going to pull all my DAI. I'm out of here, and I'm going to go buy, and you can get an additional 5 million HEX there.
Well, and it's also important to know on this particular pool that you're highlighting that's with DAI, it actually is set up to send 50% profit to the people who are participating. So even though it has a 16K DAI that's there in the reserve, there has been a percentage of a profit. It won't be half of 16K, but all of the people who've deposited have been taking a slow amount of DAI off the market from those profits.
Yeah, and you can see it. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, just one final thing with this. I think what's important here is this is part of market making, and it's also a strategy for entrance and exit that people can use, and you guys can provide a lot more details. It is not about price. It's about increasing units and accomplishing whatever your goals are.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you can see the pulse numbers are about the same. The people participating in the Wrap Pulse LPX, they've got a gain of, 104 million tokens, and they still have some DAI on the side. So it's a net positive for any token. And I think we have 37 tokens and something like 45 pools within LPX. And we're just pointing out a few of the numbers here on our website. You can get all the numbers from us, or in our Telegram room, get more information about some of the other pools.
Yeah, and these current LPXs I know you guys have out there, they're already set, but there will be future LPXs that people will be able to set up, and they'll be able to adjust the numbers, as far as the parameters of how they work. But it isn't that there won't ever be impermanent loss. If we see a run up in price, which we're beginning to see on some of these assets, these may convert quite a bit into die. And how that LPX starts operating then is it's got a big cushion of die to buy downtrends.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, when we first launched this thing, I saw our die stack run up to about $500,000 worth of die in our LPX pools. And then, of course, the market turns back around, as markets do, and it was buying back tokens at a much cheaper price than they sold them at. You acquired $500,000 worth of die, and then you start injecting it into the market, trying to protect that floor price, trying to help Pulse and everything else stay higher. And so, and I think we're now sitting at around $120,000 worth of die in LPX when I checked earlier today. It changes every 70,000 transactions. It's changing rapidly as markets move. But the net game is all about APR, Jay.
Yes. And well, actually, that's a great transition because I want to, sorry about this, StreamYard reformatted these slides, but if you could kind of make sense of this, Crispy and Dave, talk a little bit about these APRs because the numbers look a little bit, for some people unreal, but they are real. So unpack this slide.
Okay. Well, you see, again, the slide's not formatted real well, but you see the hex die pairs running right around 18%, APR. Then and we have an EHEX hex pair that's running at 25 and the EHEX die pairs at 21. We have an ink pair, it's 19. And those are the four we can see. There were a few more on this slide that aren't formatted on here as, StreamYard, manipulated the data a little bit in terms of the format. But yeah, the idea is you're getting nice double digit yield. And Crispy was talking in the actuator protocol, when the presentation talking about, what do you want these people to do with all their hex? They got these liquid hex. It's like, is that ideal for the hex ecosystem? No, you'd like to have them doing something with that because then they're, they're earning a yield and they're not so damn depressed that the hex price isn't going up. So if you can come over here and get a nice yield and, basically you're stacking additional hex. You saw that the hex guys have an additional 700,000 tokens in their wallets on top of the die that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a what's in it for me type of comment too that you just made about utilizing these tools. Listen, I could just be staking X like we were talking about. You could just stay liquid and do nothing, right, with all this stuff, and that's fine. Listen, DeFi people can do what they want to do, but I think it's also important for you to do your own research and know about these things, whether we're talking about the other products or this product that's out there, because you know what, guys, we it's a little trope. I guess maybe I don't know if that's the right way to say this, but anyways, we often will criticize people about selling, right? And we'll be like, you guys don't know what you're doing. You should be doing X, Y, and Z, but most of it's BS, right? And what do I mean by that? People say, well, you should DCA out. You know how long it takes to DCA out a large position? A very long time. And then somebody else will say, well, if you were just doing V3, you'd figure this all out. Well, you know what? V3 isn't real super fast. Right. It can be if you're selling into a pump or something like you set up a V3. And so a lot of people, it's like, but it can also go the other way and you don't get what you want done. In any case, this is another option, another methodology people can use.
Yeah. And as we begin to wrap this up, Maddie's coming back. I want to say that LPX is going to be launching a new phase, and Crispy just mentioned this is phase 3.1, where people will be able to set up their own HEX LPX, EHEX LPX pools, and you can enter those pools with single entry. You don't have to provide DAI. Dave, Crispy, you want to say one or two words? Maddie's ready to move on to the next.
Yeah, when we set those pools up that you were looking at, and in the future, as you come in and you set up your own pool, if you decide you want to, provide liquidity for your token, you can decide to come in there and just set it up 100% with your token and 0 on the backside, whatever your pair is. And in fact, I think the current HEX die pair, I think the ratio right now is like 6-to-1. So if you brought $1,000 worth of HEX in right now, you'd need about $150 worth of die if you were trying to join that pool. But when we go solo LPX and you can start your own, you can come in 100% HEX and 0 die. So, that's what solo LPX will allow you to do. Set up your own liquidity pools.
Thank you, Maddie, for this opportunity. I just want to say to everyone, if you want to find out more about LPX, come to our Telegram, tg.plusx.app, and come check out the front end and the hex pools there, lpx.plusx.app. Thank you, Crispy. Please find Crispy at hexfire.io. Please go check out his website. And Maddie, thank you again. We really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for doing this awesome talk. And everybody can find you guys there at the screen names you have on the screen. So we'll continue on with our program here right after this musical interlude. And I want to thank you guys again for doing your talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you.
With that being said, let's talk about the highest appreciating asset class today. It's crypto, not stocks and bonds. Boy, this ain't for play. My word plays to educate the children around my way, so they can get out the hood. No, I don't want to stay. Education's critical in my life, pivotal. Could have been in jail or dead. Yeah, it's just that simple. But back to investing. Here, take some notes. Never go all in like jumping off a boat. Dollar cost averaging. Google that term so you can keep your shirt on, so you don't get burned. Now there's a risk to all investments. This you should know. You can take yearly profits and get ready to blow.
Hey there, Brandon.
Maddie, how are you, buddy?
It's great to see you. And I want to make a special shout out for your talk here because you are making a donation to the HEX Conference, and that's going to help us not be in the red so much this time. So I really appreciate that, and really appreciate you coming to speak.
Maddie, the reason that I did that was because I appreciate people who are helping themselves and helping the community. So, I think this is just a great opportunity to build relationships and network, and that's exactly what you're doing, and that's what we need. So I appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I'm going to let you take it away here for 20 minutes and explain what you're building and how it's HEX related and anything else you want to add. Thanks.
Cool, dude. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a while. You might know me, an artist formerly known as Rags to Riches. And the first thing I want to do is just kind of scan through the chat here real quick. And I want to check and see the people that we know in here. Shout out to Trap Gravity. Looks like he's blowing up the chat here. Hexagon, nice to have you in here. Tam, awesome. Saw your talk last night. Good job on that. Pulse Ray Vision in here. Smo Spider, absolutely killing it. Susie Q, it's so cool to see all these faces from the past here. Freddie Quotes in the house. Nice to have you in here. UpX Tokens. Nice to have everybody in here. All right, here's the deal. I do not have a lot of time. Okay, I've got about 20 minutes, and I wanted to kind of take this opportunity to tell you guys about me. There are some folks that don't know about me, and I want to kind of paint the picture that way. I want to talk about Pulse Chain. I want to talk about HEX, kind of where I found out about HEX and how that whole process took place. And I'm going to kind of took some notes here, and I'm just going to go through. I wanted to make sure that I hit everything here. At any point in time, if you guys have questions or anything, you can pop them in the chat. It's not a problem. So, first and foremost, thank you for having me here, guys. I want to start this talk by kind of grounding this talk in a little bit of reality. All right. And actually, before I start here, I'm going to start my timer to make sure that I can time this right. There we go. So I'm starting this grounded in reality here. I'm not here, guys, to sell you a token. I'm not here to attack anybody. I'm not here to attack a chain, anybody else. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Pulse Chain does not have any sort of critics, because we all know that it does. And I'm here to talk about a couple things that, in my opinion, are far more important than any sort of price action. And those three things that I kind of sat down and thought about here is infrastructure, culture, and I think most importantly, leadership. And it's those three things and not hype are actually what decides whether an ecosystem is going to survive long term. And I'm not just talking about crypto. You know, those leadership is important for any organization. Okay. And we can take these ideas and apply this to any box. So if you guys didn't know, my name is Brandon Davis. I run a development company now called buildthetech.com. And everything that I'm sharing with you guys right now is based on experience. I have been in this space a pretty long time relative to some newer folks. So 2013 or so. And I've gotten an idea through a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error of what works and what does not work. So back in 2013, crypto wasn't as glamorous. It was super hype. There were no polished interfaces when it comes to dApps. There were influencers, but certainly not the amount of influencers that we have now. The VC-backed narratives didn't really exist back then. You were here because you were curious. You were definitely here because you wanted to make money. And a lot of people here, even going back further, they were here because they didn't trust the existing system. And I encourage you guys to pull out Satoshi's white paper to kind of understand like what the mindset was back then, because I certainly didn't understand back then what it was all about. And I'll tell you that in light of what's been happening over the past decade, 15 years or so, to our world at large, I think cryptocurrency in its purest form is extremely important now. So if we fast forward, you know, I got in 2013. I think I got in when Coinbase only offered Bitcoin, I think, and then they went Ethereum and then XRP or Litecoin, and then it exploded. But that's the only thing you can get. So I bought it back then, screwed up, made all the wrong choices and decisions. And fast forward to 2020, and that's kind of where we're set now. Friends and family actually created a Telegram room just for me. And it was a place for them to ask me questions about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about wallets, about mining. So I mined Bitcoin back then too. And then also just about security, general questions and ideas about that. So something pretty interesting happened when they created that group for me. The group grew. Word spread pretty quickly, you know, locally, friends and family and stuff. And suddenly I was kind of answering the same sort of questions over and over every single day. I could not keep up. So I made a simple decision. I just started a YouTube channel. And the reason that I wanted to start a YouTube channel, it wasn't because I wanted a brand. It wasn't because I was chasing clout. But it was because one video could answer a question from 10 people that I got in one day. So I just sent them to the YouTube channel. So it was pretty cool. And I was doing all sorts of crazy content back then. Yeah, I think one of them was like, was Karl Marx, would he be a Bitcoin proponent or something like that? I was just trying to come up with crazy ideas. Nobody was watching my videos except my friends and family, but it didn't really matter. That decision to create that YouTube channel really changed the trajectory of my life up until that point for a variety of different reasons. I first heard about HEX on Twitter, and I think I heard about HEX maybe late 2019. And I saw Richard Hart. I saw the top hat. I saw all the bold claims that he was making, and he was, you know, educating folks. I was extremely skeptical. I was probably extremely skeptical for about a year. And, you know, instead of reacting emotionally, I did what I've tried to always do, which is I actually dug in and I read the contract. Okay. And what I found was very surprising based on the general sentiment about Richard Hart and HEX. So HEX wasn't magic. HEX wasn't, you know, perfect per se, but it was extremely novel. The thing that I realized really quickly was that the supply distribution through time locking, not just buying, was extremely important. It rewarded commitment over any sort of speculation. And the T-share system objectively incentivizes long-term behavior. And, you know, a lot of folks on the internet, they said, you know, it's a scam. You just stake your hex and you earn more hex. Scam, 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 scam. I said, well, guys, like, you know, what's the difference between a VC insider and all of his buddies buying up all the supply before it gets out there? Hex is a distribution model ultimately. And I really appreciate that about it. So, you know, the extreme criticism, but there was also extreme praise with regards to Hex and Richard. So I tried to really ignore both sides and just focus on the logic. And what happened was I used my YouTube channel that I created a while back. And I said, you know what? I want to introduce Hex to my small little group of people, just friends and family, essentially. So I want to make a YouTube video about it, explaining what Hex actually was. And I didn't hype it. I didn't promise it. I just kind of told people what I found. And I did not expect anything to happen whatsoever. So what actually happened was the YouTube algorithm did what the YouTube algorithm was supposed to do. And Hexicans ended up finding my channel because I took the time to understand the product and I didn't just repeat all of the talking points that we saw all over the internet. And so YouTube connected people who wanted to hear that message, Hexicans, to that video, and it just kind of blew up. And I kept making more and more videos as I learned. I remember getting a lot of stuff wrong about the Hex contract because it wasn't the most simple thing to kind of digest all at once. But I remember Hexicans were extremely nice in my comments and just kind of correcting me on how it works. I said, cool, take that information, make the next video about it. And I know that there's some people in this chat that were around with me back then when YouTube did what it was supposed to do. So I thought it was complete. I didn't know a Hexican, and it was interesting to see that happen. So long story short, that channel objectively ended up onboarding tens of thousands of people into Hex and Pulse Chain. Lots and lots of videos, lots and lots of interaction with the community. And I think that it wasn't because I told people to buy. I really tried to educate people. And it was an interesting dynamic because it forced me to learn. I had to educate myself before I felt comfortable enough to go talk to other people about it. And it's because I respected people enough to be very honest, straightforward, knowledgeable. And I wanted to know it well enough to be able to explain it on my own. A little bit about me with regards to this, and it all connects. It'll dovetail here. I'm very motivated, deeply motivated by fairness. I hate lies. I hate slander. I hate watching people get attacked for narratives that aren't grounded in reality. And we see that everywhere in our world. So for that reason, I defended Hex with facts and data. The uncomfortable truth is that facts and data, they don't matter. Okay, they don't matter in this world. Facts alone really don't win arguments anymore, right? It's really just the public sentiment, and it's the mob mentality. Doesn't work in politics. You guys know that about me. It doesn't work in crypto, and it doesn't even work within our own communities a lot of times. You know, I supported holding Bitcoin and Ethereum as hedges, and I took a lot of heat for that. I disagreed with maximalism, and I definitely paid a social price for that. But I think that at that point in my life, I found that, you know, holding to principles were more important than trying to gain the approval of the mob. And I think that over time, a lot of people come to that same conclusion. So I'm a day one Pulse Chain and Pulse X holder and a sacrificer. And early on, I knew something pretty critical. I didn't think that Pulse Chain was just another fork. I really didn't. It was completely different type of community. I'd never seen anything like it. Just absolutely wild, raving fanatics, right? That's where you get the word fan. But there was going to be a transition. And if you guys kind of listened to some of my content back then, before Pulse Chain launched, I kind of warned people about this. I said we were going to go from a single asset culture to a full layer one ecosystem, right? And I think that in that instance, we were going to go through a pretty painful phase. And I think we're kind of still in that painful phase. You know, when new change launch, and especially with the community that we had, it creates kind of a land rush. Okay. Everybody's trying to settle that land. So you get attention wars, you get factions, you get people with really, really big egos, you get massive amounts of drama. And Pulse Chain was definitely no exception to that, and really still is not any exception to that. What made it a lot harder, ladies and gentlemen, was the timing. I think that one of the mistakes that a lot of us make is not being able to zoom out and take a look at what's happening around the world and the massive amount of changes. And even the previous administration, kind of how they hamstrung cryptocurrency from a legal aspect, financial aspect, all sorts. So the stars align in the wrong way for us, I think. But what's interesting, a testament to this community, we still have like a HEX conference. You know, we've got 40, 50, 60 speakers. That's really important. And it's very vibrant in Telegram and Twitter. And there's people in the real world doing really good things, trying to get the word out and spread the message. So I think that that's very important. So, you know, there was infighting, still is infighting. There's tribalism. There's people. This is what I really hate the most. It's the people that are tearing others down just so they can cut through the noise and be seen. And you know, it's not a good thing, but I will concede that it definitely is a human thing. And we know that. But I think the most important thing about this is we get the opportunity to choose how we respond to this stuff. Now, I started making that choice. I said, I'm going to make a decision here, and I'm going to, I didn't want to compete for attention by destroying others publicly. I didn't feel good about it. It feels good in the moment. You're getting tapped with that dopamine, and you're just in a fist fight with somebody, knock somebody in the teeth, but it's not good. It's not good for anything. So there's one quote that would go through my head back in the day. And I think this is from Nietzsche. I don't know for sure, but rudeness is a weak man's imitation of strength. And I'm not preaching at you guys. Trust me, I've failed at this plenty of times before. But I was trying to ask myself a little bit of a better question. And I said, what actually builds something that lasts, right? When we're not pointing at each other and we start looking outwards and figuring out how do we really want to make this thing sustainable. And I don't think it's any sort of outrage marketing, personally. I don't think it's dunking on people. I don't think it's winning Twitter arguments, per se. Does that help? Yes. You have to concede that it helps, especially if you have a big audience. But I think that the three things that it's important for us to focus on moving forward is going to be infrastructure. It's going to be cultural changes. And I think it's going to be people picking up leadership roles and really moving this forward, embodying it and changing the culture. One influencer at a time, I guess you could say. And here's something we don't say enough in crypto. You don't have to agree with someone to treat them with respect. You don't have to like another chain to build bridges. You don't have to win every argument to lead by example. Sometimes just introducing somebody to a principled group of people or culture is all they need to do to reconsider their assumptions. You got to understand that people out there, they're dealing with the same sort of culture that we are. And if we can just be a little bit better, be a little bit more understanding, willing to engage in respectful dialogue, even if they don't agree with us, they'll probably keep coming back because it's just a better alternative psychologically for these people. So olive branches, folks, they're not weakness. And looking back on it so many times, man, I'm just ashamed to say that I was a part of a lot of conversations with people that were just unacceptable. And me personally, I just want to move away from that. And I'm trying to spread the message to everybody else that I think that's very important if we want to make this a long-term thing. A mature ecosystem will extend those olive branches, even if they're not reciprocated. Okay. Try to spend your energy on making things better rather than making things worse. And again, I'm kind of talking to myself right now. If I had a diary, I'd be talking to myself. I don't have one. So let's talk about infrastructure. These are one of the points that I was talking about, and I'm 16 minutes in already. Okay. I watched Pulse Chain evolve. I noticed a little pattern. Everybody wants attention. Very few people wanted responsibility. Responsibility in terms of development and infrastructure kind of looks like this. We want to write code that can't rug. We want to ship products that work. We want to reduce friction for users. We want to make it easier, not harder, to onboard capital. I built buildthetech.com for that reason. So I wanted to be a part of the solution. And part of building buildthetech.com is we brought to market 35 projects for other people. And one of the other reasons is I wanted to build my own projects. I wanted to have control over it and do it the right way. So we're going to talk about Switch.win. Switch.win is currently live on Pulse Chain. Switch on Pulse Chain is a ground up decentralized exchange aggregator. Now, many of you don't know what that means exactly. So what you need to do is imagine you're on Ethereum. You want to trade one cryptocurrency like Ethereum for another like USDC. There's hundreds of DEXs out there. There's Uniswap, SushiSwap, there's PancakeSwap, and literally thousands of other liquidity sources on Ethereum. And each one of those has their own pools of money. And each one of those pools has different prices, slightly different prices for the same asset. So what we do as a DEX aggregator, it will come in, it will automatically scan multiple decentralized exchanges and liquidity sources, and sometimes hundreds. There's hundreds of those DEXs on Ethereum. It'll scan it in seconds to find the absolute best price and route for your swap. It pulls it all together and it gives you the best possible price. So if you're a buyer of PLS, for example, if you want to come in heavy into Pulse Chain, maybe you have 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, or even smaller amounts, it's in your best interest to allow Switch.win to scan all the liquidity sources on Pulse Chain. And there might even be some that we know about that you don't know about. And we're going to gather the cheapest crypto for your dollar paid. Switch.win has the fastest switch time objectively. Now, we say switch time, not swap time, okay? And that's on Pulse Chain. We've compiled a list of 95 to 98% of the tokens on Pulse Chain. It's extremely easy to add your favorite tokens. If you're afraid of connecting your wallet to a third-party decentralized app, which you should be, always be careful. Switch code has been double audited by outside firms. That's Switch.win. On Pulse Chain, there's an inordinate amount of tax tokens. In order to account for the buy tax or the sell tax on the token, users must first manually go to the settings of their favorite DEX or their favorite aggregator. You have to manually change those settings. Switch.win solves this problem. We auto-detect the tax token fee. Our proprietary solution auto-adjusts your slippage for you, and then it allows you to execute the trade quickly and seamlessly. Switch will even reset your slippage to 0.5% when you go to trade for a different regular token. When launching new project on Pulse Chain, developers often need to worry about scammers and hackers sharing fake contract addresses. These contract addresses trick people into buying the scam project that looks like the real one. Switch decided to create a free widget generator. Now, what does this mean? Developers can create a widget. They can set their default pair to be traded within 30 seconds. You can change the color scheme of the frame to match your logo style, or you can simply copy the code. You can embed it directly to your website. You can send people directly to the website to trade for your token. We're soon launching a partner program. You can share protocol fees directly. So if you want to integrate with Switch.win, we're going to share those fees with you. You can create a website, your own sub-community. You can send them there. Any fees that are collected, it'll go straight to you as well. So that's pretty nice. We've been live for roughly 2 months now on Pulse Chain in kind of a beta form. In the coming week, we'll be launching a substantial upgrade to Switch routing. And we're going to ensure that 85 to 90% of the time, our rates will beat every liquidity source or aggregator that exists on Pulse Chain. On the topic of fees, Switch will have a flat fee for trading when fees are finally turned on. So that's nice. Fees are free right now. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. We didn't have an ICO. We didn't have a sacrifice. We have no token associated with this. This is pure utility. Switch exists on Base and Ethereum, Pulse Chain as well. And I'm excited to say that moving forward here in the future, very near future, You can follow me on Twitter, Brandon R2R. We're going to be announcing a very, very significant infrastructure project that's going to tie in with Switch as well. And this has already been built and this has already been audited. We just want to give the community the tools to be successful. And then for outsiders kind of looking in, folks, this is important too. We want people to kind of, look at Pulse Chain maybe the first time, pull up DeFi Llama, look at all the protocols and what we have. And we want them to say, hey, these guys, they've got their stuff together and we already have our stuff together very well. And we just want to make it better. We want to keep up with the existing technology out there. So, Maddie, I think, is that my time, man?
Yeah, great job. Wow.
Yes, got it. I was stressing there for a minute, man. So if you guys want to learn more about it, you can go to buildthetech.com. You can contact me directly, Brandon R2R on Twitter. You can go to switch.win. You can use this now. It's completely free. We have a really, really cool limit order system that's coming as well. And it's going to be different than anything else that exists in cryptocurrency. And I'm really excited to show you guys that. And it's a very trustless limit order system. So I'm excited too.
Well, very impressive. Well-balanced talk, and definitely bringing the tech to Hex and Pulse Chain. And definitely appreciate the support of the conference. So yeah, you rock. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Be good now.
Awesome. All right. Take care. And everybody follow Brandon and use switch.win.
Please do. We love it. Give us feedback.
Up next, we have Das Bomb after this interlude. Thanks.
Thanks.
The insane taking on East and Post. We on 2 chains. Other coins didn't fit. What was I supposed to do? Not stink and stay broke with you? Shit. Bar HEX for 4 years. Trying to DCA. Got post chain, post sex. Trying to DCA. Now the world gon' see. Rich already changed the game. Which is why the hell you see me DCA in the post chain. Bar HEX for 4 years. Trying to DCA. Got post chain, post sex. Trying to DCA. Now the world gon' see. Things will never be the same. Ever since we launched our own thing on our own chain. Bar HEX for 4 years. Trying to DCA. Got post chain, post sex. Trying to DCA. Now the world gonna see. Rich already changed the game, which is why the hell you see me DCA it in the post chain. Bar HEX for 4 years. Trying to DCA. Got post chain, post sex. Trying to DCA. Now the world gonna see. Things will never be the same. Ever since we launched our own thing on our own chain. You other Sammy Chicas need to get your crypto coffee to wake up and out of ditches so you go from rags to bitches.
Hello.
Hey there.
Oh my God. You should have seen me because just in the last 5 seconds before I came on, I remembered I didn't have my hex.com sweatshirt on, so I had to run and get
it. Yeah, costume change, perfect. Yeah, and
last second.
I want to give you your full 20 minutes here to discuss security. You've spoken at many HEX conferences, and I'm really pleased to have you back at this 6th annual conference. Everybody hit the like and subscribe button and share this out. And thanks so much for being here. I'll let you take it away.
Thanks to be back. Just put me on full screen and I'll start. Okay. Ideally full screen if you can. Gonna be a better show. Okay. So welcome to the Crypto Security Crash Course. I will be talking to especially new people. Maybe you'll get the most out of it, but I'll go through a lot of things pretty fast. And even if you are not new and you've been at it for a while, I'll hope you get something out of it and maybe you'll cover a blind spot that you had. So let's go. Hello to everybody in the chat as well. See Sandy Beach, Will, Susie. Hello, hello. Let's go for this. So the first and most important part is organization. Organize as if your $100 in crypto are worth 1 million already, and you'll save yourself a lot of headaches. Create a crypto-only email. Get 2 USB keys or a booklet and write down anything that might be important and that you might be forgetting in the future. So, for example, logins, passwords, steps for websites, ICO, stakes, LPs, farms attached, etc. hint and reminders for seed storage location, hint and reminders for encryption or your cipher, backup of transaction history, very important for tags and tracking, where you send something, maybe you have a wallet, you're sending, I don't know, you're rich and you're sending 10 ETH somewhere and you forget about it, tracking helps you. Any lending or borrowing with friends, you know, who did I give, how much, when are they supposed to get it back, and so on. Make separate wallets, main, cold, LP, trading, degen, NFTs, tests, whatever it is. You can do as many as you want, and the more separation you have, the easier it will get, and it will add security, because if one wallet gets compromised, maybe not everything is lost, right? Or maybe one passphrase is only compromised. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't get compromised at all. And set calendar reminders, for example, for hex takes or important ICO dates, whatever. Maybe when you like the lending and borrowing, you need to give something back at a specific time. Next, password and logins. Create easy to remember passwords. This is super important, and I have a great picture for that. You see the Troubadour and free password. It has 28 bits of entropy, but it's super hard to remember. There is uppercase, lowercase, special characters, numbers, letters, whatever. It's not easy to remember. But then the correct horse battery stable, it has 44 bits of entropy because it's longer, so it's just more complicated. There are 4 random common words in it. It's super hard to guess, super hard to brute force, but it's easy to remember for you as a human. So you can write it down or have a picture as a reminder, and it's going to be easy for you. Save backups of your 2FA QR codes. This is going to help you. For example, if you have an exchange login or your email login, and then somehow you lose your wallet, you use your authenticator app or whatever. Now, if you have a backup of your original 2FA QR code, you can just get back in without having to contact support, or maybe your whole account is lost because you don't have the 2FA anymore. And this just helps you to get back into your account without any headaches. Disable SMS authentication. This is because of SIM swap attacks. Just look into it. Very bad thing. And here's an example of how you could write down and note your email and your logins and so on in a secure way. So you have your Gmail, for example, my email at gmail.com. You have your secure password, the horse battery stable. You have a note and your recovery email, for example, or any other. And then you have your separate Gmail account, HexBeliever33 Gmail. It has a different password. You also have a reminder for the password and a note, 2FA, Google Auth. You remove the SMS, and you have your recovery Proton email or whatever. So it's just an example. Next is a wallet note example. You have your type, your address, your passphrase, and a note. And the passphrase, specifically the first 3 wallet addresses, are on your first passphrase. So you note it as A. This is the passphrase, and then you have your backup somewhere. So this is your main test and trading wallet. And then on your second passphrase, for example, you have the B1 wallet, B2, B3. Those are the sequential derivation created addresses. You have your stakes, your LP, your degen memes. And if you organize it in this way, you cannot forget you have your specific tokens in the separate address. You have your stakes ending maybe in 2025, and you forgot to do that because that was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, this is the example. Next, learn crypto basic. Risk is the stuff you don't know. It's easy to get lost. So here are just a few topics that you should look into it, because I cannot go into them in detail, but you should know about them. Your crypto is stored on the blockchain, not in your wallet software. Learn how it works. Seed words, passphrase, private and public keys, derivation path. It's important to know how the backend works for this. How to unstuck transactions. What are RPC settings? How to revoke allowances, anything about mining, validating, staking, farming, liquidity providing. The more you use of this stuff, the more you should know the minute differences and so on and how they work. DEX, Railgun, Tornado Cash, also very good to know how they work specifically, especially because there are so many different type of DEXs, what they do, what's technology they use, etc. And for all of this, you can find more detailed videos on my YouTube. It's Baum Crypto on YouTube. And we also have t.me hex settings 37. This is a channel where we combined the admins in the Telegram, the hex Telegram. We combined a lot of information, help videos, guides, links to websites and so on. All the things they are there. You should have a look at it. Next, wallet software. There is internetmoney.io. It's pulse chain optimized. It does have Chrome and mobile. I wouldn't recommend using mobile phones in general, but if you have like a test wallet or so, it's okay to do, or just maybe a small amount on your mobile if you really need it on the go. Pulsewallet.org, it's a Rabbit clone, also has Chrome and mobile support. OKX wallet supports pulse chain, which is nice natively, so you have information and data available. Then Rabbit.io, it's a really good wallet, but unfortunately they don't support it natively anymore. You can still use it on pulse chain via custom network settings, but you won't have like graphs and dollar amounts and so on. And then there is MetaMask.io. Funnily enough, it's the most used wallet. It's like something ridiculous, like 80% people still use that, but it's mostly buggy. So I suggest to avoid it, but it's sometimes you cannot get away from it because go.hex.com, for example, only works natively with MetaMask wallet because it was created way before there were any other wallets around and even before Wallet Connect was around. So you're kind of stuck using that one. Unless you try Internet Money or Rabbit.io, they have an emulate feature, so they try to look like MetaMask. It works sometimes it doesn't. So my suggestion, get comfortable with all wallets, install them each on a separate Google Chrome profile, so you have access to them, and then if one of them somehow breaks down, you still have another alternative that you can use, and you will be familiar if you already tested them a little bit before. Next, passphrase. Very important to know, and you should use one if you can. You cannot use one for hex stakes that you did before, but maybe you want to introduce it for your next wallet or your next stakes, hex stakes for the future. The little gist, you have your 12 seed words or 24 or 33 or whatever system you use. If you have no passphrase, it's generating wallet A1, A2, A3, etc. You have unlimited amount, but you can also choose to select a passphrase. In this case, the passphrase is Martha. You should have a more secure passphrase, but it would generate B1, B2, B3 wallet, also endless amount of wallets. And if you use another one, John's Best Steakhouse 97, it's going to generate a completely different set of wallets again. It's going to be C1, C2, C3, etc. And each of those will be separate separate organizations, separate security, because if somebody finds your 12 seed words and you use no passphrase, he has direct access to it. But if you have your seed word and your passphrase, somebody would have to find both of them to get access to your crypto. So if you store your passphrase separately, you have more security from it. So passphrase creation. Ideally 12 to 36 characters, so it's not easily brute forceable, 12 plus, but also not too long, 36, because you do want to have an easy way of writing it down or have your backups in steel later. Theoretically, the max length on the Trezor is 50 and on the Ledger it's 100. So you have to be careful with that before you create it. Ideally, you use numbers, letters, ideally one non-dictionary word, so it's harder to brute force, And I would suggest to stick to upper or lowercase letters, because again, it's going to be hard with deciphering on the backup in steel. Is it like a capital letter U? Is it a small one? So it's just easier to stick to one. And avoid special characters. You're mostly limited by the metal stamps later on in your security journey. There is the and sign, which you have on spec on cases like this. So this one is the Odin. This one has upper and lowercase, but like I said, I would stray away from it. And then you have the and special character, the squiggly and the Benecreat as well. This one is uppercase only. It has the letters, the numbers, and the and sign. So you'll think ahead of it a bit about it, and then you make your passphrase from it. Next, keep your seed words private. That means offline. Best practices: never type your seed words into a keyboard. Never type your passphrase into a keyboard. Never share your words with another person. Never take a picture of your seed words. Never send your seed words by email or SMS. Never store your seed words on the cloud. Never store seed words in a password manager. Lots of people got hacked from this last one. That's super sad. Seed backup. Start with 2 seed word backups in paper. This is usually a small paper that you get with your hardware wallet. And then once you have everything tested, you transition ideally to A2 3 or 4 steel or titanium G2 backup. You can find them as washers, or you can find them as a plate. You can have small plates, you can have bigger plates, whatever floats your boat. You should avoid anything that is iron, and especially if it's zinced, because when you stamp it, it breaks the seal, the zinc steel, and then it becomes corroded, it becomes faded, you cannot read it. And laminated paper and paper, they fade over time, they are easily burned, they are getting wet and can just dissolve, and you won't be able to recover from your paper backup anything. Avoid kludgy backup systems. I'm going to show a few pictures about that. And in my opinion, the best are washers and plates. Ideally, you should also have 2 backups in different locations. You can have one encrypted seed words, and then you store your cipher in a different location. This makes it more secure. Or you have alternatively the passphrase, and then you have the seed words in one location and then the passphrase in a second location. So again, that's separated. So somebody would have to find both to restore and get access to your wallet. Always test your backup. If it works, then you can burn the paper backup. And attempt to restore from your backup yearly. This way, you know that it works. You know, you have your peace of mind, you know how to do it, and you make sure that everything is up to code. This is one of those kludgy systems. You heat them, they warp, they break, they're flimsy. Try to avoid those systems. Really get something like really sturdy, like a plate. And here is also the difference between engraving and stamping. Stamping is way clearer and better. This is why I suggest always stamping. And here is an example for a torch test. These are M8 washers with A2 steel. They are heated. A house fire burns up to 1,400 degrees Celsius. This torch is a bit hotter because it's melting it. But even after melting and separating, you can still see that the backup is completely clear. You can restore your seed words from that. And they survive major damages. Corrosion is not an issue and so on. So that's great. Here's what backups would look like. You can get them really thick and big if you want, or you can have smaller backups. You can get them up to like 3 washers thin. And how would you do that with the words? You can use one word per washer or double-sided. So you have, if you have a 24-word seed, you have double-sided, you can put them on 12 washers. One word, the number of your seed word, and then redundancy, this would be the bib number. If you want it a little bit more compact, you can go with 3 words on one washer, and then double-sided, you double up. And the most compact I could get it to is 4 words. So if you have 4 words, double-sided, 3 washers, you get the 24 seed word onto that one. And it's very tiny. And this is what it would look like, how you make your seed backup. You have a little jig. You don't really need it, but it's easier with, so that it's stamped. Check, you go letter by letter, and then you have your seed words on your plate or on your washers. Next, best practices. Not your keys, not your coins. Transfer crypto from exchanges to wallet address that you control. Never leave it on exchanges. Revoke approvals frequently and never, ever approve on your main or cold storage wallet. Always transfer stuff that you want for long-term on a wallet that you never interact with any contract, do approvals or anything on it. Double check addresses and copy paste. All transactions are final. So if you do a mistake, if you copy I've had so many people that came to me and said, oh, I copied the contract address and then I sent to the contract address instead of sending to the address that I wanted to send to. So be careful with that. Always double and triple check. Avoid using crypto on a phone. It's high risk. Many attack vectors, bugs, other applications try to steal information from your crypto app and so on. So ideally use a PC, get separate browser profile for your crypto so you don't mix it up with your normal daily uses. And make sure that you type websites yourself. Avoid Googling website because they are in the search algorithm. They put themselves on top. And then, for example, if you search hex.com, there might be an ad that leads you to hexgo.com or something, and that's a scam site that steals all your crypto. Be careful. Always confirm information from multiple sources, be it if something you hear or some update comes up, make sure that you check the Twitter, check the Telegram, ask somebody who is trustworthy in the community, go to the Instagram, whatever it is, just multiple sources, make sure that the information is really correct. And you can ask for help only in public Telegram chats like the HEX channel or the HEX security channel, where admins, they help you with anything security related. And get any free antivirus, for example, Bitdefender. It's free, it's easy, it runs pretty silent in the background. Don't bother with VPNs. They don't do anything for your crypto security, but the antivirus you should get. And for onboarding the right way, I have a big list here. 14 points, 15 points. Pause the stream if you want to look at it. I'm not going to go through it, but this is the way you should onboard somebody, and check maybe if you did all the points. Quick note on a crypto-only laptop. Separation is better and protection for protection and for threat prevention. It's reduced attack service. It's improved peace of mind. And when should you get one? I suggest from 3 to 6 months of living cost invested. So if you have 100K salary, 30 to 60K in crypto, then you get a $300 laptop. It's 1% of your investment. And let's imagine you do a 10x of your portfolio. Now you are securing or have additional security of 300K on your 300 laptop. So that's worthwhile. Anything under it, not worth it. But what you always should get is a crypto, is a hardware wallet. Crypto hardware wallet. So that's before a laptop. That's the first thing you should get. But the crypto-only laptop is a nice level up. And I did a big free a big series with 3 videos with much detail about brands, setup, what you need, how much RAM, etc. Check it out on my YouTube. And this is where my 20 minutes end. Maddie, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Share the security info with your loved ones. And behold my stuff. Check me out. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Check out my Etsy shop. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for going over those critical details. Having security as a part of the HEX conference is indispensable. And you've been a community member from the beginning. So I really want to thank you for speaking at this year's HEX conference. Where can people find more of your content?
Yeah, I'm BPK Das Baum on everything. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much
Twitter, YouTube,
for
whatever.
speaking here, and really appreciate it.
Cheers. See you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Up next, we have a Wild SJ and Jexa after this short interlude.
Sacrificing all this bread like I'm Richard Hart. Got paid on big payday and I had a hit restart. Now I'm checking on my pulse just to check my heart. Checking my MetaMask moving. Look at the HEX, yes, mooning. Looking at why they be choosing. Peter is why they be losing. Pull chains out, now get me a check. He's gassed up and got me a mess. Remember the times he died, collect. HEX, I been eating, I'm dying in the best. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo. Getting this back like a year ago. Getting this post, I ain't letting go. Swerving the ring like a Lambo.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, how are we?
Awesome. Well, first things first, I want to wish Toby1 Hexobi getting better soon. He got under the weather here with a word we're not allowed to say, maybe still on YouTube, but I think he's going to pull through, and he's taking care of his parents as always. And so a massive shout out to him. And then I also wanted to say a Wild SJ, we're so grateful that that the pharmacist acted quickly, and maybe you can say a few words about the health scare that you had just here recently.
Yeah, I'm actually still like just before this, like I'll probably have to pause every now and then and cough, and it's really strange. It's just I'm not asthma, like I don't have asthma. I just had I've had a few breathing, like shortness of breath episodes over the last like month and a half or two. Seems like it's only when I'm in my apartment, but a couple nights ago, started in my apartment, had a rough night with it, and then the following day, I like looking back now, I'm thinking there's some construction and there's like a lot of dust in this office here, so I think that might have exacerbated it. And I basically got to a point where I couldn't speak, like I couldn't breathe. And good fast thinking homie Pablo out here, one of the volunteers, was like, well, let me drive you to go get your inhaler. And I was like, let's just go to the pharmacy, because like the closest pharmacy, and I'll just get another one of these over the counter inhaler things, which I had just had a conversation with my my doctor about it, and he was like, yeah, those aren't really for what you're experiencing. I can't tell you all the logistics anyway. So he took me to the pharmacy. I couldn't find what I was looking for in the aisle where I thought it was supposed to be. So Pablo walks up to the pharmacist and was like, hey man, do you guys have these inhalers here? My friend's having trouble breathing. And the pharmacist was just like, I need to give you an inhaler. Like, let me just give you an inhaler. And the guy behind him, like another pharmacist there, was like, you can't do that. Like, she needs to call, an ambulance, and he was, it's one of those things where you can tell this man loves his job and he loves what he does and he's passionate about it. When after I got the inhaler and was breathing better, he was like, there's the first heart surgeon, he's telling me this story. He says, one of the first heart surgeons ever died because he didn't have his inhaler, and like wow. How sad to lose, someone of that magnitude just because they don't have this like apparatus on them. And it's just so strange because it's very sporadic. It's not a thing that I'm used to. It's not something that,
right.
Like, oh, I should have had my inhaler on me. Like it's not something I'm, usually going to have to, or have usually had to have in the past. So it's a trip, and I'm still like my breath is still not back to the way it was. I've never had this happen before. Thanks to my doctor, I got some chest x-rays done like the next day, I think, and I get to see him Friday. So we'll figure out hopefully what's going on, because it's just strange. Like, it really just kind of came out of nowhere for me. And again, I'm grateful that pharmacist just was really quick thinking. And, at the time, like, I was just like, oh, like, it's okay. Like, I'll figure it out. Because that's just me.
Right.
I'm optimistic, and I'm not.
Right.
You don't sound 100%. You're a trooper for coming on here.
So,
And
in hindsight,
he broke the protocol. He wasn't supposed to give it to you. He said, we're not going to wait for insurance or payment. We're just here.
Yeah.
Go. Like, you can't breathe here. And the other pharmacist is like, no, you can't do that. And so I mean, that's incredible. And
it's crazy that people will stand by, and because an arbitrary rule's been put in place, they won't take action to help. That's just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Right. So so thank God for that. And
Yes.
I'm so grateful for both of you to be here on the conference. Really excited to hear what you both can share. Now, you don't have to take up the whole hour, since we don't have all 4 speakers here, but you're both welcome to share like what it is that is exciting you about HEX these days, or like what's the unique message you can give for the conference. I have kind of this really cool thing that
we'll get into that.
might be able to talk about, but
Awesome.
maybe I can let you two take it away here, and then I'll join back in a little bit and see where we're at to close out today.
Perfect. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're both part of the furniture in the HEX ecosystem now. We've both been here for a little while.
I like that.
I think we come at it from very different angles. I'm very much on the techie side.
Yep.
Like to get out and stream occasionally, and you're more the creative side. I'd say. Would that be that's sort of
You're
where
the
you come at it
social
from?
side. I feel like I'm
Social
very
side.
much just like a social butterfly when it comes to all this. And I mean, I barely even talk about the core coins. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever pulled up a chart on my own channel. Not once.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah. So we've got the polar opposite sides of the community here. So that'll be good. We can ask each other a few interesting questions. We spoke about this in the green room, and I think you guys now, hopefully you can sort of give us a bit more detail on the structure and how it's working, but you're obviously in the thick of getting the tablets and the marketing efforts out to people. A lot of us, we see a little bit of a few snippets on Twitter, but I guess now's a really good chance to get some insights into all the hard work that you guys, I know there's a lot of hard work going on and a lot of volunteers. So I think some people, the community needs to appreciate the efforts that are being put in on a voluntary basis, I think. So yeah, be good to get your take on what's going on that side.
Yeah. So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. It's been very challenging as someone who is very social and really likes to talk about things and, wants to tell everyone what's going on all the time. I've had to really dial that back, because it's, in my opinion, not really been my place to talk about, all the details of everything that's going on behind the scenes. And at first also, it was really, how do I put this? To respect our anonymous donor who, has so wonderfully gifted the foundation all of these tablets, and really just not wanted to let the cat out of the bag, in the way, in terms of like, this is something that's never been done before. Like,
so that I'll ask questions, and if you say, Jex, so just shut up, I can't answer it.
Sure.
Let's go. So there was a call put out by RH. He said it would be great if some foundations or something popped up where some good work could be done. How did that come about from your side of things? Like, what was the trigger for that? And did you just go and fire up a foundation? What was the sort of background thing that was going on there? Was there any little secrets you can divulge there?
Yeah. So before I go into that, I do want to say that if you do have a foundation or a nonprofit in places even if it's in the USA still or outside of the USA, more importantly, please let us know. Like, let someone know. There's a Telegram for it. There's a Simple X chat. Because I know that.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
still being
there's
sought
a
out.
bunch of Aussie guys that have got one set up.
Yeah.
So you're working with
I mean,
those
if
guys?
that's actually set up, like, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so you're not communicating with those guys currently?
No, because I'm
right,
so
well,
busy. Like, I'm here right now in terms of like what I'm doing and like what I've been focused on.
Okay.
Right. Like, it's hard to keep tabs on and keep track of like who else is doing what. But yeah, if anyone else already has something like that established, please like DM me or get a hold of the R.S. Griffin Foundation, because we want to help make sure that this gets out to more than just the U.S. You know, even though like this has been like the testing ground in a way, right? Like trying to figure out like what works, what doesn't work. So back to the question though. I think I just happen to be in a social situation where I'm surrounded by a lot of the hardest working people in this ecosystem in terms of like, you know, like different things, right? Like there's a lot like yourself, right? Like Brandon, right? Like who was just on. Lots of people doing lots of different things in different ways. And I feel like the people that I'm surrounded with have wanted, like, are always looking to like, okay, how can I help next? Like, what's the next thing I can do? Right. If they're not coders, not developers, right? Like in a different way. So as soon as this started, you know, being known that there was a nonprofit needing to be built, I ended up being in that social mix of different people who wanted to get those established. And then it turned out that someone else within my social circles, and I don't want to like name names or talk too much about all that. Like, you can figure it out. Like if you go down the rabbit hole and like look up the EIN numbers and stuff like that, I'm sure like all our names are public on records and things like that. I just happen to be a part of all of the nonprofits that exist for this purpose.
I think we're probably one of the most doxed communities.
Yeah.
In terms of everyone's got their face out. We're not just profile pics on X. Everyone, not too hard to find out who I am in real life.
Right.
Sure. So,
exactly.
we've all put ourselves out there. So respect to anyone that's done that for the community. But in this day and age, you can take a lot of heat when you put your real identity out there. So anyone that's done it, congrats.
Yeah. So it just worked out that there was actually already an established nonprofit whose mission statement was able to align well enough with the, you know, the cause for the tablets that that's the donor decided to go forward with that nonprofit because it was already established. We were ready to go.
Right.
And
that's interesting. So it was nothing to do with, it wasn't fired up specifically for this, and it was nothing to do with the cryptos.
Not that specific one, no. But there are two others that are now established that are in the United States that were created for that purpose specifically. And one of them is very active and has also been doing, you know, there's like it's on like publicly, like there's the Blockchain Literacy Foundation, I think, is the second one, and the R.S. Griffin Foundation was the first one. And then there's a third, and I feel terrible that I can't think of their name right now because I'm also a part of it. But
and so from the foundation's perspective, is it totally voluntary?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. This is just what we've decided to spend our time and energy doing. And you know, it's been a real, like, we had no idea. I had no idea this was going to be of the magnitude that it was, or how much time, energy, space, like all of the things that it was going to be. Like, we came into this space where the warehouse is, and originally we had thought we would only be occupying maybe like a quarter, if that, like a very small amount of space. We're like, okay, we could put a desk here. We could put the printer that we need to make the labels over here. And this, that, and it, you know, time and time again, I find within Hexaco, within our community, synchronicities just keep happening. So the fact that we are now in the space that we're in, and it holds 2 truckloads of tablets, I mean, it could not have worked out better in terms of this
So that,
space.
that
And
was
like,
a community member that's provided that space.
no, it was actually the friend of a community member who owned this, or not owned the space, but was renting the space at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for him, his business ended up going under as our business was starting. So he
Mm-hmm.
had to kind of like liquidate everything and get out. But that left us with like the desk that I'm sitting at and
Mm-hmm.
like several other, items that we kind of just
Mm-hmm.
got to keep because his business ended. And it,
Yep.
I mean, the timing could not have been more perfect. Like it worked out
Mm.
unbelievably.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've got a mini warehouse full of
Mhm.
How many devices are we talking? We got any idea?
In here, I think there's like there's at least 200,000 in our warehouse here.
Yep.
And then we have a storage facility that's across the street that has another 400, 500,000.
Really?
Yeah. And
So-
another container on the way. And I think this container coming is the last that's coming to us.
Yeah. So you've got, and it is really just trialing something new. So everyone, we've tried to get the word out on X, and that's okay. But you find that you're still in that little crypto bubble, and you need to be able to push outside of our little crypto world into real world where potentially new customers, community members exist. What's been the sort of the thought process behind who you target and how you do that?
So it's gone one way and then back. And the one thing I really appreciate and have really started to understand, and this thought has been instilled in me, is just the persistence, right? Like the fact that we're going to try everything until we run out of options, and then we'll try everything else again. Like, so the original way things were going out, it was a lot of through the U.S. Postal Service. And that was part of the reason why it's important to be going through a nonprofit, is the rates that a nonprofit is able to secure through the U.S. postal system are much better than just sending them out regular postal mail. So that was going really well for a little while. We did get some feedback, and it was not what we expected. It was not, it was frustrating because it's like you're sending these things out and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be so cool. Like people are getting this free stuff in the mail, and it felt like, and
people are skeptical when they receive things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And take this with a grain of salt, because it's like, this was just a small sampling, right? But the experience that when I was collecting data and feedback about it, it was like no one read any of the label, right? They looked at it and said, I don't know what this is. We got some returned to us. I got told some got put in the trash right away. Many people will just open it and give it to their kids. Not the worst thing. So that was like originally what was going on. And then we ran into some issues with the Postal Service and our nonprofit status. And they basically were, what's the right word? To us, it seems like it's a misunderstanding of terminology. And they decided that they didn't want to allow us to send out at nonprofit rates. And so that piece of this puzzle came to a halt for now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we're not going to do that again. In fact, I'm in the middle of trying to create a new label and finding out if we can perhaps use another similar funnel through USPS that's slightly more expensive than nonprofit, but might also do mass marketing. But it goes
just before we go too much further. Sorry to interrupt your train of thought. So you said you were tracking the efforts, because this is the big thing, right? So you send a whole bunch of stuff out, and unless you've got some way to monitor the effectiveness of it, you're just pushing things out into the void.
Right.
And that happens a lot with flyers that end up in a mailbox. Unless you've got some way of tracking where the interest has come from. And if it's a company, they can always say, oh, look, where did you hear about us, and collect that sort of data. So how are you going about the collection and analysis of things like you just said? So what happened to the packages? Why did they get sent back? What was the sort of process behind that?
I went door to door.
Seriously? So after they'd gone, sent out,
Mm-hmm.
got in your car, went and door knocked and just said, can I ask what's happened?
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's good.
It was a real interesting
There's not
experience.
too many companies that would get up and do that.
Right. And it was actually better than I expected. Like I did a canvassing job once for one night and had the door slammed on my face. You know, this is like many years ago, you know, and I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. I'm not going to, you know, but I found that a lot of people were kind of open to talking about it, especially when they found out that it was this thing that we had been giving away. Some people wanted another one. Some people, you know, like I actually had 2 great conversations about crypto. There was a guy that hadn't received one, even though he should have in the neighborhood. Turns out he was one of the guys that was like, oh, give me one of those. He was the roommate of the CFO of FTX and had gone to the first ever Bitcoin conference. So he was like super into crypto, but had never heard of any of the, you know, Richard Hart products. So like, who knows? He has a tablet now, and he might have checked out Pulse Chain. And then there was a woman in her family, and you know, she was like, you know, I just gave it to my daughter, but my husband and I are actually interested in that. She didn't even realize what was on the tablet. But the moment I started to bring up, you know, that it's decentralized finance and this is what we're interested in teaching people about, she was like, oh, she brought her husband over and we talked for like 20 minutes about it.
Yep. There's a couple of interesting points out of that. We assume everyone knows about Pulse Chain in the crypto industry. And I can tell you now, most people don't. Like they're all in their own little bubbles. Can you tell me about there's 50 or 60 odd EVM chains out there? I could probably name 10 off the top of my head, and then I start to get a little bit lost. And there's just so many different things that have popped up that there's all little communities around them, but unless you're in that little bubble, you've got no idea. So I think we fall into the trap of thinking we're being gatekept sometimes, and things, when a lot of times it could just be a lack of an awareness.
Yep.
So I think that there's still a lot of work that we can do within the industry and within our little crypto bubble, and not just go defense mode all the time. Just don't assume people are out to because they have it in for Richard or whatever. Sometimes it's just a lack of awareness. So you've gone and you've done the canvassing. You've got a little bit of feedback. Now you're talking about what's on the labels, and I think it is pretty important what goes on those labels. Yeah. And not to take away from all the hard work you guys have been doing, I still don't think we've seen like the perfect version of what should go on there without, like, you've got to sell something, you've got to have a bit of a call to action, but you don't want to come off as like scammy or anything like that. So it's a very fine one to tread to get that interest initially. You've got like 2 or 3 seconds for someone to look at this thing.
So this is just a fraction of the iterations of the labels that we've gone through.
Yep. So if there's anyone in the community that is an absolute jet with marketing, graphics, like this is your bread and butter, now's the time to step up.
This is currently what's going out, but we're changing this a little bit. We're going to actually add a phone number. So I think if you have a wall of text, that's hard for people to get over. So you need that visual impact. I think the QR code is really good because it gives someone, like, they'll get their phone out just to find out what's going on and see what it is. And I seen some guerrilla marketing done the other day, which I thought was just one of those clickbait things on X. But someone had gone around and stuck up pamphlets in a town saying, this is my scummy husband that cheated on me, or something like that. And they had a QR code up there. So people were going and scanning it to find out what the hell was going on. And it was obviously leading them to something else, which I thought was clever just from getting the attention of people. I thought it was pretty clever. Not sure if that's the way you want to
want to approach it, but it was an interesting sort of way of doing things. And I guess the point was, how do you get that immediate attention and get someone to immediately take action, and getting that tagline right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is too, is like, they technically don't have to go out from where we are with labels. You know what I mean? Like, that's just an extra step that we're doing. Like, if people want boxes without labels and you want to put your own labels on them, like, by all means, like, do
Right.
that.
Okay.
You know, like, this is now a very, very much a community effort. And
Okay.
you know,
So on that, you've got 400,000 of these things warehoused.
we have almost 800,000, I think. Total.
800,000. So how can community members get involved if they want to get hold of some of these things and trial a few approaches?
Holla.
Obviously.
Holla at me. Like, seriously, just send me a DM, send the RS Griffin account a DM. You know, we're always looking for, you know, people that are doing convention, like Hunter, who had, you know, previously, like, he helped us out with the van that we've been using to move things back and forth. He's doing a convention, I think, right now. And we sent him 2,500 devices for him to have at his convention. So if you're going to a convention, if you're putting on a convention, you know, anything like that, like, we have boxes for you to have. Like, I can send pallets of these anywhere in the United States. So let me know.
That's good to know that we've got those resources there. It just takes people's initiative to see how we can creatively do it.
Yeah. And that was part of the frustration for me at first, was like, so many people reached out and had great ideas and wanted to send them out and wanted to show them on stream and wanted to do all these things. But because, you know, we're working with someone else, and you know, we wanted to go in a certain order of the way things were going to go, a lot of those ideas were like, hey, but I can't do that right now. You know, we can't do that. So I've actually gone back through a bunch of my own DMs and sent boxes out to people that had in the past been like, oh, I want to like hand these out at my local farmers market, or I want to, you know, do this. So if you've had one of those ideas, if you commented somewhere on a thread about what you want to do with them, please comment again or reach out to me about it, because it's a whole new world right now. And we just really want to get these out and into the hands of people who can do them. If you want to do the paperboy thing, right? Throw them out your window. Like, you can just don't put them in mailboxes. That's a federal offense. Don't do that.
Is that true?
Yeah, you'll go to jail. You cannot put it in a person's mailbox.
Really?
Yeah, you can throw it on their front porch. You can throw them anywhere. You can sit them on top of mailboxes. Totally fine. Do not put them inside someone's mailbox, though.
Wow, that must be a US thing, because
it is.
I wish we had that in our country. So once again, you can tell me to shut up. The direction from an external source, how much direction is coming from an external source?
I can probably not speak to that too much. Yeah, just,
so,
you know, the anonymous donor is, you know, like,
would like to remain anonymous.
Wants this shit to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, so there's a lot of just trial and error and trying again and figuring it out, and you know.
So where do we currently stand in terms of, like, you're obviously having a look at different labeling, trying to get that relationship with the Postal Service again?
Yeah, we're looking into a different way to do it through the Postal Service. We've been gate kept. No, I don't want to use that word. We've been working on an Amazon listing for like over a month now, probably almost 2 months. But they've got a lot of red tape with their, like, they need a lot of documentation, because something about it being like a kid's toy, which we didn't list it as a kid's toy. So we're trying to figure, we're getting all this, we have to send paperwork to them, and then they have to review it. So we just sent them.
This is just to list an item for sale.
It's ridiculous. Really? Yeah. And the first part of it was because of the lithium battery. And then the second part of it is because of it being like a kid's toy. So I don't know if we just, like, you know, the listing, when I think we had done everything kind of like by the book in the way we were supposed to. And then Amazon was just like, no, you can't list it this way. You have to have this paperwork, send us these, you know, these documents. And that's kind of like like a daisy chain of like, figuring out who's got that document and how I can get it from the manufacturer and, all that stuff. So it's still in the works, and I'm really hopeful that it gets, cleared really soon. Because I think that would be a really great way to get that. Because a lot of people have talked about how, if we get a lot of sales on Amazon, then it gets put on a front page, or it gets seen by more people who are kind of looking for that kind of item.
Okay, so is the hope in that you list a product, and as a community effort, if everyone in the community went and brought one
or two,
one or two tablets, then that drives up your ranking. That's the okay, that's an interesting way to tackle things.
Just to get more eyes on it, anything that gets more eyes on it. Like I've said, conventions, anyone that's doing some kind of conference or is interested in, I had a volunteer who didn't end up going, but had said he was going to go to CES and hand them out in Vegas. I personally went to a different conference in Vegas and handed them out to people. So there's so many different ways to do this at this point. But getting them out in mass is really what I personally want to work on and get, and focus on, because I think that I do think despite it not being as impactful as I think we had hoped, I still think that it's worth getting them out in mass to perhaps more targeted areas. Like the areas we did were targeted. It was basically taking like, where are the most crypto friendly or tech heavy zip codes? And that's kind of how we started, was sending them out to there. So there's like a bunch of people in Puerto Rico. I wish Big K was here, because he has a really great testimony as to the fact that his neighborhood was buzzing about them because everybody in Dorado got them. So they were all talking about these tablets. And, I think there's a lot more of an impact happening in the real world with communities that get them versus no one's going to, most people aren't posting on X about it.
Yeah. And I think you can do something right, as in you send it out to the right PO boxes and you target the right areas, and even you might get the message okay, but the timing is wrong.
True.
So the whole crypto space, and not just crypto, a lot of industries have been swimming upstream over 2025. It hasn't, economically, from a macro point of view, it's been pretty crap. People they're struggling to fill their tank with petrol and get food on the table, let alone have disposable income to chuck at speculative things. So I think it might also be a combination of that timing. You've got to get that right as well. And when, hopefully, I'd like to think that 2026 is a better year all round from that perspective. It's been pretty grim for a few years. So I think we're due for that turnaround. Maybe if you see a bit of an explosion in terms of like prices go up across the board in crypto, and it's seen as a place where someone can actually start to make a bit of money again, and it's getting those headlines and things like that, I think things will be better received at that point in time as well. So it could just be a bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's maybe why we haven't pushed the USPS thing again so heavily, because to get them out en masse that way, like maybe that's part of the plan in the background, is like just waiting for that. I also think that part of the thought of this whole thing, and what some people have said, is it's one of those things where most of the time someone's not going to throw it away. It's the brand recognition, right? It's going to sit around in your house. And then when crypto explodes, you're like, oh, wait, don't I have that thing sitting around somewhere that's got those logos on it? Didn't I see that somewhere? Yeah.
And I think we all know the story with the marketing, and people don't usually take notice on the first touch. And I don't know what the statistics are, but you need so many touch points before someone will start to get that brand recognition. And back in the early days of HEX, I think we've seen a bit of that, where we had the marketing on, I think we're on a football field in the UK, the taxi stuff, like that was awesome stuff. And it got a lot of attention. And the reason why it got a lot of attention, both like outside of crypto, But inside of crypto, as people were just up in arms, like, I can't believe Richard's doing this, or Hex is here and Hex is doing that. So I was that sort of guerrilla outrage marketing worked a little bit in our favor then. So I don't think you can underestimate the importance of those little touch points, and it's just see that logo once, and then you're out with your friends, or you see something come up on X or something like that, and you see that logo again. Oh, hang on, I'm going to check that out. The other piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we send out all these devices, and we've got it catchy enough where the images and there's a QR code or something they hit on. The next part is, have we got the onboarding right from that point?
Right. Like the follow through, right? That's actually something that someone on our team is working on right now in terms of like, how can we make sure that the follow-up happens? Because that's how I got in, right? I feel like that's how the majority of people got in, is that you had another human being, right? Like hold your hand, so to say, and walk you through the steps. It was a very personal thing, like person to person, like kind of interaction. So
we call it onboarding for a reason. Like, it takes to do it.
Yeah. And I think even if we did have the ease of use via dApps or websites, I think it still would take that human interaction in a lot of places, because you trust, you trust your friend, you trust that person, you trust the expert, right? And you want to have them be the ones to kind of like be like, okay, cool, like, here, that's cool that you're interested. Now let me show you how to do it, right? Like, so that's definitely a huge piece that we're thinking about. If anyone has any, suggestions, ideas, right? Like, and that's a whole huge community thing that we need to work on together.
Yeah, and that's not just it is a little bit trickier in Pulse, but it is getting easier. And when someone says, "Oh, that sounds great, but how can I get it?" And if you're like, "Oh, I think this is going to be like a 3-day conversation and a 3-day thing to get them on board," like, we need something that you can just say, "Oh yeah, just go here and this will get you started." And if you can get someone from a credit card or whatever, or PayPal, or I'm not sure what you guys use over there, into Pulse or Hex easily, that's where we've got to end up. And I don't know whether ProveX is maybe.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I'm hopeful that is part of the solution. I think it may be.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing we don't seem to have. And if you can go from like the app on your phone seamlessly across, that removes a lot of friction. And what's also good about that is the community gets to create that market. So if someone needs to come in and buy these tokens, well, where are they going to get them from? They're going to get them from a pool of people that are providing that liquidity there. So it is very much community driven on that side as well. So that's my hope out of the ProveX side of things. That's what I'd like to see, is some of those walls broken down, because I think that is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
So we've got 90 people in chat watching this live.
Hi, people.
So if there's any questions that you think I've missed or you want to ask SJ, by all means, fire them in there, and we'll see if we can get ourselves in trouble and get told to go away again for asking appropriate questions. I think it's nice to.
Jexa, I want to thank you for what you've built and what you're doing, because as someone who uses Starlink and lives in a bus, having protocols like what you've built there, it's vouch, right?
Vouch. Yep.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that.
That's invaluable to me, because I can't run a validator. So that's doing liquid staking is like really the only way for me to go.
It's a good chance for everyone to share in the natural yield in Pulse Chain. So yeah, I think it was important for me to make sure that tool's out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Love it.
We've got time for some quick Hex stats. I haven't looked at the stats on Hex for a little while, so I'll quiz you guys. Chat, let a peek and go to the website that's got all the stats. So, what is the total % of supply staked?
I'm gonna guess 93%.
You've been cheating, haven't you?
No.
You've looked.
No, seriously?
That's pretty damn close, man. That was a good effort. That was 92%. Well done. So total, I don't know if anyone knows this, total supply of HEX?
Not techie. I don't know. I don't know any of these things.
Maybe, is it 20 billion? No. Wait. 600 billion. 600 billion.
You're on the ball, Matty. 633.5 billion. Of that, how much? You'll be able to do this if you're good at maths. How much of that is in circulating supply? We knew how much staked was. So
maybe
20
billion.
50 billion.
Okay.
This is the one that shocked me. So, SJ, were you around for when HEX first launched?
No.
Okay, so the share rate when it first launched to buy one T-share was how many HEX? Matty, you should know this one.
33,000 or 3,333.
I think it was it 10,000? We start off at 10,000 HEX per
Oh,
T-share?
for a 15-year stake or for a 1 day stake?
Yeah, you're getting quite nerdy. Yeah, I think it was 10. I think the base rate was 10,000.
Yeah.
What do you think it is to get a T-share now in HEX terms?
SJ, got a guess?
369,000.
I'm gonna guess 35,000.
It is currently 43,000.
Wow.
Which
expensive.
that shocked me. I was we've been here a number of years now, and it's just sort of slowly crept up and up. So T-shares are rare little things now. Numbers. I won't hammer you too much more. I just thought it was interesting to see some of those quick things. And Matty, you're on the ball, mate. If you had asked me those questions, I wouldn't have been able to give you the answers.
Well, I'm running the HEX conference, so I got to have some sort of idea of like what's going on here.
That's some street cred. Very good.
Well, and I think I saw earlier today, it's up to something like $333 million has been sacrificed for ProveX by the OA, and there was something like 16 million of the user supply that sacrificed. So those numbers are going to be really interesting for Buckamentals and Hexus Danny Dillon to go over tomorrow night at this time.
Yeah, so we've got like another 4 or 5 days to run before the whole SAC phase is complete.
It's actually it ends the UTC time of the 9th, which is it's always been the HEX conference has been January 6th through 9th. So it'll be ending basically the moment that the 4th day of the HEX conference goes live here in the United States on Friday at 6 p.m.
Okay, so you've got Buck is coming on to run through the numbers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's he and Dylan, who ran the largest pool sacrifice, they're going to be speaking actually tomorrow night. So that'll be like 20 hours before or 20 or whatever. Like it'll be basically the night before the end of the sacrifice.
So I think we'd have a pretty good picture by then, you would think.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. This is exciting because I think Richard had hinted that basically ProveX, maybe they'll launch the token before the protocol is even ready and that sort of thing. And so who knows? Maybe a January launch, maybe, only 2 more weeks.
Oh man, it was so funny going from working in video game dev world to crypto, and that phrase holds in both worlds. Just 2 more weeks to launch, just 2 more weeks, guys, and then I came over here and it's the same thing. It's very silly.
All right.
I'll just someone in chat's just been putting some ideas for marketing SJ, so I've just taken a screenshot of that so we can.
Thank you.
I'll pass it on.
I hope it's not the Somali daycare one.
You get a lot of funding that way, I hear.
Ugh, Lord. Oh man.
I don't even know where to start on that.
There's actually there's one person I've been talking to that I'm really hopeful that this works out. It won't be until the spring, but they have an idea of getting it through a network of firefighters, and it would be something like 350,000 tablets would be going through this like network of people, and that'd be a whole lot off what I got. Maybe it was I want to say 350,000. Might have been 35,000. Either way, thousands of them going out. Yes, please.
Right. And especially to a group of people that are well connected. And I think in HEX, we already see that there's networks of people, people who have served in the military, people who are nerds, like people who are early into crypto, people who were saved by Richard speaking against FTX and that sort of thing. There are these clusters of people who have really taken to HEX.
Yeah, I think the voices of those clusters will get a lot louder as market conditions change as well, I think.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. In it for the long haul, guys, huh? It's good to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for coming on and speaking. I really appreciate it. And this is part of what makes the HEX conference so great, is that we get so many topics, especially with this marketing campaign and the the nonprofit and everything. This is a critical part of the HEX story right now.
Yeah.
And I think especially when we see HEX do its next big thing, I think people will be looking back at these types of moments and hearing from SJ and Jexa like this is the true alpha. So thank you both so much for being on.
Yeah,
thanks for having us on, Manny.
Where can people find you guys if they're just listening audio wise and they're not looking at the screen? Jexa?
I'll go YSJ has a coughing fit.
Yeah.
So on X, it's J_Jexa. If you want to follow the project that I'm pretty keen on, which is Vouch, go to vouch.run, and from vouch.run you can link out to all corners of that ecosystem. But that is liquid staking on Pulse, so very much supportive of the Pulse chain ecosystem. So yeah, check us out there.
Awesome.
And I am at AWildSJ everywhere. YouTube, X, Instagram. You can find me on all the socials. Even I think LinkedIn is also my at AWildSJ. So changed it all. This is my identity forever.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's it. And then the RS Griffin Foundation as well. I'm a big part of that. So
awesome.
If you've got cool marketing ideas or can help out SJ and the team, reach out. Don't just be sit in the background and criticize. If you've got ideas, they can use your help.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you two hop off and I'll go over the final details here as I wrap up the last minute or two here, and really appreciate having you guys on.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So we're halfway through the 6th annual HEX conference. We've had so many great speakers. There's about 50 total people who are speaking over these 4 days, and super grateful to everybody who's come on. Tomorrow, Thursday, starting at the same time as always, we're going to hear a back and forth between Johnny Chaos and Crypto 7. Then the second hour will be Aubrey DeGray who raised $27.5 million for longevity through Pulse Chain. And he'll be giving us updates on the longevity progress that he's making. Then really excited for a panel between Hexologist, Cabana Crypto, and Crypto Coffee 369. And finally, the last hour tomorrow is going to be Buckamentals and Hex's Danny Dillon, who ran the largest sacrifice pool for ProveX, which of course is the new technology that could help Hex and Pulse Chain reach a larger audience. And then on Friday, we've got Zenith doing a legal update. We've got Nerd Girl 007, and then a panel from Kareem, Fast Abdul, and Brissology, and Wendy's for Tendies has joined that one. So that's going to be really exciting. And then there's going to be a power panel of 9 participants in the third hour: Axis Alive, Big Kurkowski, Hexfire.io, Fast Abdul, Toby1 Hexobi, Whitney Magic, Giga the Mentor, Rachel Laub, and myself. And then we're hoping and praying that we'll get a video from the Hex founder, Richard Hart, there. We've kind of etched out that 4th hour on the 4th day to see if we can get anything there. And I also really want to thank Switch.win and Brandon Davis for making a donation to the HEX conference. We're still in the red, and so we haven't broken even yet on this conference with the StreamYard fees and the way that we're protecting privacy for the speakers with SurveyMonkey and domain names and this and that, conference badges. So if you're willing to make a donation, you can send crypto to Matty, MATI.eth, or Matty, MATI.pls.fyi. Those are 2 ways that you can help contribute. And finally, I want to make a huge shout out to Rachel Laub. It's Crypto Bestie on Twitter. She has volunteered to run the green room, and the conference wouldn't be possible without her help. You know her as Fashion Coder, and so a portion of any donations that you make will be given to her as a way to compensate for her time and for helping to make the conference possible. So that's about all we got for tonight. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button and share this out. And as always, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out. Till tomorrow.
Bitches, see a brainologist and a fashion coder. It gives your crypto heartbeat up before it's over. Check my post. Stop by Kaiser to stay bull run ready. Needy's not tired. And on the corner of Westcott needs yes. Saw a picture of Rich in Georgia in a wedding dress. Yes. Hard Pearl class teach fools. Met a pirate. Johnny's chaos broke loose. Heard a Hex siren and SJ appeared, but I saw whales only, no dolphins on the pier. Cosmic Cowboys saw the street it was on when Whitney did her magic and Toby Wan's Panama. Wore a couple shirts while waving goodbye that said RH Max and Access was alive. Then I met Corey, a big-time investor. Met another Corey, intellectual impressor. Robbie got me hyped, now we dance carefree. And Julie got her dress on with Lindsay and Marie. This compassion in crypto. Ask Black KC, Forrest, Robert, Quinn, or David Lee. Sandy Beach sounds good. A Black Hexagon winning like some Hexagon or DJ from Poly. Bar Hex for 4 years. Trying to DCA. Got post-chain, post-X. Trying to DCA. Now the world gon' see. Rich already changed the game, which is why the hell you see me DCAing in the post-chain. Bar Hex for 4 years. Trying to DCA.